Welcome back to Pipe Dreams Podcast. We're in Alabama. We're at
Sweet
Barber,
home Alabama.
Yeah, Barber Motorsports Park. This is episode 15. Do a little housekeeping before. Thank
what
you
have you been
again.
doing? You've been in the mountains, Jimmy. What have you been doing?
Well, before that, I've been in Europe for 10 days, just absolutely living, just trying to keep my relationship alive. I can tell you it is alive and well. And then, yeah, I went to Hunter Dunham's house, and we did some climbing on a bicycle. I'm not a climber on a bicycle.
I think I just saw somebody riding your bike outside up there.
Dude, stop, man. But yeah, it's been pretty good. We went through Atlanta. We had all of that, and you've been actually doing some traveling as well.
Yeah, I've been bouncing around. Been doing some one-on-one coaching. Had a couple of days in Jersey. Was down in Charlotte with Kayla, and you were there too, actually. Yeah, that was cool. But yeah, I've just been bouncing around. It's been a hectic 2 weeks, but Atlanta was good. Good turnaround for us. It wasn't the best for you, but hopefully you guys are doing some R&D this next week or something. I don't know if that's top secret. I don't know if we're allowed to say that, but
NDAs all around, baby.
Yeah. But yeah, no, definitely stoked for this weekend. Stoked to get another pod under our belts. And
it came directly live and direct in just for the pod. I can't stay here all weekend, but I'm here just for the podcast. And yeah, again, thank you everybody for listening and watching and buying the merch. It goes a long way. It helps us with all of our production costs to keep doing these, to keep bringing good guests on, and all the feedback, the comments. Please like and share it. We see every single comment and we love it. And anybody that's around us, please come up if you're wanting to say, hey, you like it. It goes a long way for us to keep doing it, because it is a lot of time and a lot of effort for us to do these, but we thoroughly enjoy it. And again, as always, our big sponsor, Law Tigers, America's motorcycle lawyers. They are the greatest motorcycle lawyers there are
in the history of human.
1-800-LAW-TIGERS. Dude, I bomb it every time. But they have stuck with us. They are our first sponsor, and they have been with us from the beginning. If you are in an accident, please call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS, and at no cost to the rider.
Services are at no cost to riders. They fight to get you guys taken care of and back out there on two wheels. If you ride with Law Tigers, you never ride alone. So give them a call, 1-800-LAW-TIGERS. We appreciate you guys, and let's get into it, Jimmy.
Yeah, let's go. So we've got an amazing guest here. His birthday is tomorrow.
Big 22.
Big 22. He's from his hometown's Hollywood, Florida, but Miami is close. Some people call him Poppy. I don't know. Is he the second Poppy?
That's
less introduction.
We've got Sean Dylan Kelly. Some people call him SDK. Welcome to Pipe Dreams.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm pumped to be on here. I've been watching for a while, and yeah, it just feels good to be chatting it up with you guys.
For sure. How's it been being back in the U.S., obviously? At Atlanta, first one out of the way, but you've been testing with these guys a bit down at Homestead and stuff. So
yeah.
What's that like coming back to the U.S.?
Man, there's a lot to talk about just with that alone. Like a big change again. I've been, born and raised U.S., then went overseas 3 years, came back for 3 years, then went back for 2 years, and now I'm back here again. So a lot of changes, but it feels good. Like, honestly, I'm really happy with where I'm at right now. I'm just enjoying racing. I'm enjoying living. I'm enjoying my life at home. I'm enjoying being back with friends and family, being back at home. It's that alone is a big change. I was in my own apartment with roommates and my girl in Spain, but still going back to my parents' house here. It's just so many changes, but it feels good. Like, I'm really, really enjoying where everything's at right now, and I'm just going day by day.
And I think there's going to be a ton to unpack in this podcast, but let's scroll way back, because you're a part of the Southwest Florida mini GP guys, right? Like, you came up through pocket bikes and things like that.
Yeah, so South Florida Mini GP now is it's like NJ Mini GP, right? Like they have, it's pretty much the same company. They just have the division. But South Florida Mini GP didn't start until way after I was already off of mini bikes, right? So now I'm kind of a part of that, but I'm more trying to coach and trying to help up. But when I was growing up, that wasn't a thing. So I did start with pocket bikes. I started with the mini supermotos, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I started back in Miami. But it was a different time, there was there wasn't as much accessibility, which I mean there still really isn't, let's say, but that's what I grew up with, and it's just, you know, it was a lot different than, let's say, what most guys kind of grow up with motocross or even with like the background. Like my background is
So
kind of
you
different.
like ride in parking lots or kart tracks down there?
So the first track was Opelika, had a open go-kart track, which honestly it was the only open field go-kart track. Like, you know how go-kart tracks are all indoor.
Yeah.
Opelika it's like, let's say 30 minutes from Miami downtown, and it was the only open go-kart track, and it was open until 2020 COVID hit and they had to close down.
Oh shit.
I might have rode there when I was growing up and coming through and went to the Metro Kit, and I might have rode a pocket bike there.
So it was a full like there was the walls were tires. It was tire walls.
Yeah.
It was pretty much a parking lot.
That's what I think.
A parking lot that they made just out of a bunch of tires, and they just made a layout.
Huh.
And that was the track. That's where I grew up. It was.
I'll have to look that up and see if because there was a track in Miami we used to go down, like as I was trying to go for the first ever Red Bull Rookie. That's how old I am, and it was
2001,
something like that. You know what I mean? 25, and yeah, we used to go down to Miami, and there was a track, but I don't remember. I know it was pretty close to.
Dude, it had to be that. There's
Okay.
no other one.
Yeah,
There's
right,
no
then it
other
had to have
place.
been that. Yeah,
it was
yeah.
there. If it was outdoors, then that was the place.
Sweet.
And it's crazy, right? It's crazy to think that, like, for me, that's in my vision, that's still a track, but really all it was a parking lot with tire walls all around. But that's where I grew up. That was my first time ever on a motorcycle. I was on a pocket bike there. And then I just, slowly got into it, slowly got bikes. And
previously though, you wanted to be a go-kart racer is what I've read somewhere.
Yeah.
In a deep dive. So they wouldn't allow you to? Like, what's the story with that?
Yeah, so pretty much my inspiration with that is my dad never raced motorcycles. He was never into any of that. But he was a mechanic. So my parents are both from Argentina, and my dad there was a mechanic his entire life. Cars, no, nothing with bikes, just all cars. And came to the US, and then obviously I was born, and I was just always born, I was always around cars, around engines. I was around my dad being a mechanic, so I was just always around that. My dad had his own body shop by the time I was, a couple, 2-3 years old, and just being around that, I think I was just kind of had that gasoline in my blood. And I was like 5 years old really when I started insisting my parents, like, hey, I want to try a go-kart. And I just kept insisting, and they ended up taking me to this go-kart track, Opelika, and we showed up there. And the story is that I, like, just how life is, right? That day the go-kart rentals were closed. Mm-hmm. And right in front of, like, let's say the track is right here, right in front of the go-kart rental place was another Argentinian guy with a small little motorcycle shop, mechanic. But he had so many. I just remember going in there. Again, I was like 5 years old. I remember just seeing a bunch of bikes laying around, and he was working on all this stuff. And, my parents start talking like, oh, yeah, he wants to try out a little go-kart. And he was like, oh, man, go-karts are kind of expensive. He fooled my parents, right? Because motorcycles aren't cheap either, but my parents got a little fooled. But the guy was super cool. He was like, yeah, if he wants to try a pocket bike, I've got one sitting right here. And I remember being on the back seat and my parents coming up to me and opening the door, and they're like, hey, do you want to try this little pocket bike today? And, like, man, I was 5 years old. I'm like, yeah, of course, let's do it. We went back home. I had a little motocross helmet and the knee pads and, like bicycle knee pads and all that. Got a long sleeve. I have a picture. It's super funny. I got like long sleeve shirt, pants, and I tried the pocket bike that day in that little track, and I fell in love with it. My dad from there found a PW 80 and built it up like off of parts. And in a few months, I had a little PW, and I just started ripping around, and then
that was it. No more go-karts.
No, dude. What's funny is I didn't try a go-kart until I was 8 years old. After that,
That's crazy.
Yeah. So like 3 years no, never tried one. Not even a rental car. I mean, obviously the first one I tried was a rental car, but for 3 years I never jumped on one, and it was because at Opelika they didn't let me at that little go-kart track because I was too small. I was too little.
And at
So-
that time, did your dad know about like motorcycle racing, or was it just to have fun at the time? Like there was no plan, right?
No, there was
Okay.
zero plan. He didn't know anything of it until I just started. I slowly started getting into it. We started practicing there, and there was Thursdays was kind of like the ride day at this go-kart track, and more racers would pop up. They're like, oh, like come take him to this little local race, and I started racing, and it just kind of grew from there. But man, like it all started as a hobby. Like I think most of us, right? All started out as a hobby, and definitely since my dad was never a racer, it was never really that serious until
Yeah, it got serious.
until it got serious.
Who was in obviously like Stefano was from Miami. Was Martin? Did Martin live in Miami when he was?
Yeah,
racing?
he lived and raced, but I don't know too much. I was just so young.
I mean, they're probably they're so much older than you.
Yeah.
Like
So
Stefano's
there wasn't really
my
was there anyone
age.
down there that was kind of that you were like, had to look up to, or was kind of guiding you guys a little bit, or it was just
I had references, I had references, but nothing like that I would say like, oh man, like I have this guy that I grew up with and that's like doing X, Y, and Z. No, really not. And like looking back at it, that's probably one of the things that makes it so difficult to go up the ranks, right? When you don't have that.
yeah, for sure.
No
Especially-
pathway.
Especially comparing to Spain, when
Yeah.
that's all they have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't have too much of that.
And then so from there you decided to kind of look at going to Europe initially, right? Like once you realized you were going to race and that was kind of your what you were pursuing,
Yeah.
at what point did you guys decide that European route was kind of where you wanted to go?
Yeah, I think obviously it was my dad that had that. He got the direction. I was too young. I had no idea,
Yeah.
right? But I remember my dad when I was like 9 years old. I was on like 65, 85 at that time, and he started seeing that there was a lot of schools in Spain that were running 65s and 85s, and they were doing a bunch of like just every day just riding, racing. And he was like, man, like obviously you could tell there's nothing here. There's nothing in Miami. And this was kind of the way. And he started getting some contacts. He was starting to speak to some people over there. And super funny now I just thinking about saying all this out loud. I remember one of the reasons why I didn't want to go by myself over to Spain when I was 9 years old was because I was scared that I didn't know how to buckle my own helmet. And it just popped up in my head now. Super funny. He was like, oh, we might be able to, have you go to Spain for a week or two. And I was scared to
By yourself?
by myself, and I was scared too because I didn't know how
At
to
9
buckle
years
up.
old.
Yeah,
That's a big flight.
and it was a talk. It was a talk, and I remember having this talk, and I was just like, I mean, it never ended up happening. I don't think they wanted to commit to that, but just not knowing enough people and all that. But that talk already started, and I remember shortly after, it was like the Red Bull Rookies Cup was like watching the races on YouTube, and having. And just watching that, and that was kind of like the next reference for me mentally, right? Like, oh, Red Bull Rookies Cup. This is that was just like the dream. Let's say, just watching that, like watching it on YouTube, watching how professional it was, watching that it was Red Bull, right? And it was all young kids, and I'm like, oh man, like that's crazy, right? And I remember watching that, and then next thing I knew, like that was my first real path into it, But there was a
So
lot.
you did
There was a lot in between there.
You did the MotoGP tryout. What year was that?
So the tryout was 2015, but what's really crazy is my first ever European race. Well, it's not part of Europe now, but my first European race was in Silverstone with the KTM 390.
I was there.
You were there?
Yeah, 2015.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was racing BSB.
You were racing BSB. That's wild. Yeah. So
That is wild.
So that was my first ever race overseas.
It was on the 390.
It was on the 390.
And you raced here before that though on the 390 or no?
No,
You just went right over?
so I raced the Mexican Championship.
Oh wow.
So the 390 Cup had there was a cup, right?
Yep.
And there was a bunch all over the place. And I wanted to race it in 2015. I wanted to race it here in MotoAmerica, but I was only 12 years old. So they couldn't. The minimum I think was 14 at the time, and I wasn't even close. We tried. My dad tried to see if we can,
Some different birth certificates.
No, not even that, but just knock on some doors, send some emails, like. Yeah, we didn't do the Miami. We didn't do the Miami
citizenship.
style. We didn't try to do the Miami style, No, we sent some emails and trying to knock on some doors, but it wasn't possible. But before that, like 13, 14 was my first time getting into big track. So the Ninja 250. The 300, that was like my first real route. Jennings, Roebling, Homestead.
Was the USGPRU still?
I think it was dead by then.
That was dead,
yeah.
And that was all like super up north, but it was dead. Like there was,
yeah.
I think there was 2 bikes, if I remember, kind of like the little talk.
Yeah.
So the cheap route was Ninja 250, 300, and just getting me into big track. So that's what it was, and I was 11 the first time I got into that. Into the big track, and then my dad got me a 125 2-stroke RS, and I'm glad he did that because that was probably the only real school I got before getting into Rookies Cup, and that was we didn't know if I was going to get into Rookies Cup whatsoever, no idea, but that was clearly the right path, right, getting me into that. So I had, let's say, a year of practice on that 125, and 2014 I did CCS with the Ninja, and 2015 is when they started the KTM 390 Cup. Tried to do it in MotoAmerica, didn't have the age for it. Started talking around, looking around, contacts, and Mexico was doing the KTM 390 Cup. My dad got the contact of the owner of the National Championship, and dude, it was something ridiculous. Like he really wanted me to be over there for whatever reason, just having someone from Florida, whatever it was. And it was something crazy, right? Like MotoAmerica, you had to buy the bike to race it, and then plus every weekend. I think the bike was like 10, 15 grand. I don't know. I don't remember, but I think it was something like that. So 10, 15 to buy it, then plus everything for the season. They rented us out the bike, gave us a mechanic. They ended up sponsoring me hotels. All I had to do was get the flights. The whole championship, my dad paid $3 grand.
That's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
It might be like 35 or something like that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it was like
cheapest season you've ever done in your life.
The 3,500, right? And so when that happened, like when my dad got that pricing, he was like, dude, of course. Like this is a no-brainer. So we ended up doing it. It was crazy, right? Like Mexican championships, I mean, we could talk to Richie about it, but the tracks and just everything was crazy, wild. But I ended up going through it. I won the Mexican championship, and then come end of the season, they're like, hey, they're doing the world finals, and they're picking the best ones of each championship, or the best one, or either the champion or the top 3. But Mexico could only afford to take one guy, and I was the champion. So
no,
I went.
Oh man,
I went to Silverstone. And it was the funniest thing ever, showing up there, as American guy, but because I was with I was the Mexican champion of the KTM Cup, I was wearing the Mexican flag. So, dude, it was so funny.
And your family's from Argentina.
And my family's from Argentina, and I have an Irish name, right? It's like Sean Kelly. What?
Yeah.
Man, it was so funny. It was wild. Like
that is crazy.
But man, I showed up, and I won the first race.
So the timeline though with Richie, he would already been 15. He's already here.
Yeah, he's been here a while. Yeah, Richie's our age. Did you find? What did you find like riding in that Mexican championship? Obviously, we just spoke to Richie, so we kind of know a little bit of what that's like over there. But and you were young at the time. But what were some of the biggest differences that you coming from riding in America comparatively?
The tracks.
Yeah,
dude, the tracks are gnarly. The tracks are super gnarly. Like zero safety. I mean, I think they were really trying, because I remember they were starting to put some air fences, which was nice, right? But I remember one track, the asphalt was so bad that it kind of drizzled, and then it dried up, and I remember going out, and I did one corner, and I touched the brake, and it just locked up straight up and down, and it was just because it was like so dirty, and I don't even think it was asphalt. I think it was like partially concrete. Like half of the track was concrete, so it was ridiculous. But I think it taught me a lot. I mean, I had to ride that thing as fast as I could. And like there was still some, you know, I was only 12 years old, so it was still a lot of learning for me. And there was some guys that were, you know, obviously in their 20s, and they had, you know, they knew the track. So I had some competition. So I think it was good just kind of like getting thrown in and like, hey, you got to figure it out. Like you've got a shitty bike, shitty track. Excuse my language, but it was the truth. Like it was bad and just got thrown in.
So what's that like then going from that to Silverstone GP? Like the track is wider than anything you've ever seen.
Dude,
and it's like you can go on the curbs, the atmosphere, the front straightaway, over the bridge. Like what's that feeling like? Overwhelming or
Dude,
and did you go by yourself or did you go with your
I went with my dad.
Okay.
Yeah, my dad went with me, and dude, it's almost it sucks. I always try to think back at it, but I almost don't even remember that much detail, right? Because I was only 12 years old. Like I was young. I mean, I'm still young, but I was 12. And so I try to think back and I try to remember all these details, but I remember that first outing on that track, and I was like, "Oh my gosh. Like this is like Silverstone is still one of the biggest tracks." So, and then you add in the fact that I was on a KTM 390 and that I was coming from the Mexican Championship, like just everything added up, and I was like, wow. But I mean, I got going pretty good. I couldn't believe like just how it happened, like just how the weekend went. I mean, I didn't end up becoming the world finals champion, but by a point, I think. Yeah, by a point. But I won my first ever race there. And like for me, like to look back at 12-year-old me, my first ever time overseas, my first time on a GP track in Silverstone, and ended up winning it. And it's just like that to me is still, you know, even though I don't remember so much because I was so young, it's still like one of my like just wildest experiences.
Yeah.
You know, just being so young.
That was at basically 12 years old then.
Yeah.
And do you think it's something I like? People ask me stuff when I was a kid, because that's when I started. Was a similar time frame. Do you think it's hard?
Sorry, I was 13.
13.
Because it was October, so it was end of the year. I was 13. Yeah.
Do you think it's hard to remember a lot of that stuff? Like, is there a lot of stuff you don't remember detail wise from?
Yeah, it was. Unfortunately, I have really bad memory. So
I feel like sometimes it's like you do so many things, especially at a young age, that like your brain almost can't. It doesn't have enough like hard drive space to remember all of it. And it gets overwritten.
100%. And I have bad memory. I don't know if it's the crashes and the concussions, but I do not have good memory. And I was literally yesterday I was having this conversation with my girlfriend. Right, she was telling me a bunch of stuff of when we traveled, 2022 first year, my first Moto2 round, and she was telling me all these details of like when we went to Japan the first time, and like the day that we went out to eat and we did this and we did that, and I'm like, how do you remember that?
That's a chick thing, dude.
It is clearly, right?
Just get used to it.
And so like, dude, I don't remember the most basic things. So yeah, let alone going back now, you know, almost 10 years, right? 9-10 years.
Yeah.
I don't remember all these things, and it's like, it kind of pisses me off. I'm like, man, I wish I do. I wish I remember more details.
Yeah.
But it's just, I guess it's just how we're wired.
No, I totally agree. Who else was in that championship? I know, like, was it Mazziato at that time went over there? They only did that 1 year where they did that whole World Cup thing,
Yeah,
right?
so I think when I went in 2015, that year.
I think Pash was in it.
Or was it Passion Mazziato?
No, he went the year after.
Okay.
Oh, they did 2
Yeah,
years.
so I didn't race with him in Silverstone. Schultz. Was it Schultz? No, Schultz. No. What's his name?
No way, Matthews.
Hayden.
Oh, Hayden. Yeah.
Hayden
Schultz.
Hayden Schultz. Sorry, so Hayden Schultz was there. McAllister was there the year that I went. Yeah, I think McAllister. And then, Braden Nort. Braden Nort was there. So they were the three that were like, that came under the American, like the MotoAmerica 390 Cup. And then there was just me, like the other American, but that was wasn't really American, I guess. You know,
For the weekend.
They had no idea where I came from.
Did any of that was the catalyst to getting into the Rookies Cup?
Yeah.
Like, because KTM is a close tie to Red Bull.
Yeah.
Like, was that a bit like getting runner up, winning your first race at Silverstone? Was that bigger than winning the Mexican Championship?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question, and it's definitely, like, obviously I'll never know for sure, but I'm almost certain that had a lot to do with it, because also pretty wild just how the timing turned out to be that I did the Silverstone, the World Finals, and 2 months prior to that is when you do the online selection event, and they send you the email, hey, you're invited to the selection event. The selection event was only 10 days after the World Finals. So we went over to the World Finals, and we just stayed in Europe, right? We went straight to Spain. 10 days later, I had the World Finals. The selection event for the Rookies Cup. So you see where I'm...
Yeah, but when did you get the email? Did you get it after the World Finals?
No.
Okay.
No. This was like 2 months before the World Finals.
So you knew you were going beforehand.
So you knew
already.
you were going.
To the selection event.
Yeah. Okay.
Not getting in, because they do 3-day selection event. They get 120 kids there. They go through everybody, and then they're like, hey, we choose.
How many Americans went that time?
I think it was just me and Brandon.
Okay, so very small.
I think it was me and Brandon, maybe one else, but I don't remember. So yeah, just 10 days later, I show up, and this is why I definitely believe that my result at the World Finals had a say in me getting into the Rookies Cup, because the fact that I don't think the Mexican Championship alone was enough, right? Like for the Red Bull Rookies Cup, really, that I don't think that really says anything. But for me to show up to World Finals, I'm sure, again, being a KTM thing, being only 2 weeks before that, being in Silverstone, I think there was eyes, right? So, I showed up to the selection event, and that's still one of the also craziest experiences ever.
Yeah, talk us through that. What is that? I mean, I know what it was like in America.
And just explain so Red Bull Rookie Cup is, we've talked about it a few times on the pod, but essentially it's a big, they've got all nationalities that they try to bring, and there's a big selection to ride in like whatever 5 to 10 events around in the world, alongside the GP on the same bikes, same machinery, sponsored by like Alpine Star and KTM and Red Bull and stuff like that. So
you basically send an email, you fill out their application online.
Yeah.
Of all, I think usually like 10 or 15,000 people usually do it, right?
Yeah.
And then they narrow it down to you actually being able to come and actually test the bike.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's super crazy. I mean, right now it's one of the, if not the biggest breeding for Moto3 or just GP riders in general, right? Like they put stats all the time, Red Bull Rookies Cup, they put how many actual GP World Championship podiums and wins and everything they have now. And dude, so many of them went through Rookies Cup. Like Martin went through Rookies Cup, right? And
I think around the world you could
Binder
probably look at that
too.
stat.
Yeah, Bender. I mean, so many of them.
And the selection for you is 2 days, but you have to make it through the first day, correct?
Yeah. So the way it works is you send that application online. It's like around summertime usually. You send the application, like I said, thousands of kids apply online, and it's you pretty much, they send you a whole questionnaire, right? You have to, dude. They even ask you like your height and weight of your parents.
Really?
It's crazy, right? And I'm pretty sure they do that to kind of try and understand like where you're headed to. Like,
you got to do the 23andMe and
yeah. Like say like, hey, are you gonna be
swab?
Yeah, are you gonna be 200 pounds? Are you gonna be 7 feet? By the end of the season?
Well, how many parents are lying about their weight?
Yeah, show up to the selection event and they're like this.
You don't look like your profile picture.
Yo, full catfishing. So bad.
Rent a dad for the weekend.
Just bring some stocky, dude. But no, it's crazy. You send out the application, who you are, what you do, and then from those thousands, they choose usually around like 100, 120 to go to this selection event. The selection event is, I think, always in Spain. I did it in Spain. It's, I think, always in Spain. And when I went, they did it with a Metric Kit 85.
Oh, wow.
I did it with a Metric Kit too.
Really?
And it sucked.
Dude, it was
125 or the 80.
I don't know, but I remember when I sat on it, I knew I wasn't getting in.
We did it here on Metric Kits in 2008. I guess it was 2007 actually. And
Here?
Yeah. When I did
wow.
the US one, and like the tanks would fall off. Like,
Dude,
you'd go into the corner and they only had like one bolt on the top, and the tank would start falling off.
My bars were loose, right?
Yeah.
Bars were not in line. I went out, chain came off one of the times. Tranny was broken another time. Like, dude, just the wildest thing.
Which is stressful because you're trying to be like, I need to
it's stressful.
prove that I'm good enough to be here and my bike is broken.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's like, that's kind of iffy. But at the same time, I understand the fact that they do it on turds, right? They do it on turds because at the end of the day, if you can ride a turd, you can ride a legit KTM Moto3 bike. So I get it. I get where they're going at it. I think now they changed it. Now they're on
4 strokes.
They're on 4-stroke 250s now, I think. So I'm sure it's a bit better, and a bit, mechanics are making sure things are straight.
Yeah.
But still, the selection event is 3 days, 120 guys, First day is just for Spanish and Italians because there's so many of them. And
Wow, I didn't know that.
yeah. And that wasn't only like when I went. That's been a consistent thing every year.
Except for the first year when I went.
Really?
Yeah, we got cut first day.
So it's 3
'Cause we're
days.
Spanish or Italian.
Dude, it's crazy.
It's ridiculous, man. I think it was 120 and half 60 is Spanish and Italians. So
Oh, wow.
yeah. So that's why they need a whole day just for the Spanish.
What
and Italians.
track was it at?
Me? Guadix.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tested there. That's a fun track.
It's a nice track.
That
yeah.
is sweet. We did it
Yeah.
at Valencia.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty sick too.
It was cool.
But no, Guadix was cool, and again they do that because no one really rides there, right? If they go to Valencia now, all the
Dude, they were testing the day before we showed up.
exactly.
We literally showed up and they're
saying
just like
Exactly.
crazy.
Yeah. No, and I think that's a rule now too, that you're not allowed to ride at the selection event track within like a month before, or yeah, some rule like that, to try and make it a bit more
Yeah,
fair.
yeah.
But yeah, first day Spanish and Italian, second day rest of the world, and from those 2 days they narrow it down. So from the first day being 60, they narrow it down 30 to the last day. Second day, rest of the world, 60 of us. They narrow it down to 30 for the last day. So then last day there's 60 of us. From those 60 on final day, my year they chose 9, and I was one of those 9.
Because there's people that were in the year before that are staying on.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's show promise. And then
Yeah.
one other question is could you see lap times or anything? There's nothing, right?
It's all stopwatch.
Yeah, and you
All
have all the
dads.
dads are just
Yeah. My dad, my son did this. My
Yeah,
son did that,
yeah.
and yeah, it's all stopwatch.
And
So,
sometimes they don't even look at that. They don't look. They look at it,
I
but they
think I think it's everything.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, dude, it's they've clearly been in it long enough. They've clearly done a good job choosing their riders, because
Yeah.
you look at where everyone's gotten to, the ones that have been up front, look where they've gotten to. And even that, like, I was talking to one of my buddies the other day from over in Spain, and he's like, man, like, look at who you race against in Rookies Cup and look at the top 10. Like my last year when I finished top 10 in the championship, look where you were at. Look at all the top 10. All of us are racing somewhere, whether it's World Championship, whether it's in a good high level national championship, whether it's in some high level, right? And it's that, like, whether we're not winning in GP, but we're all still somewhere, right? We're really active.
It's a good crop.
It's a really good, yeah. But linking it back, it's they do a good job, right? They do a good job because they don't just go for lap time. They go for absolutely everything. They look at every little detail, and I think like I've seen it personally. Guys that were faster and they don't choose them because they're like, oh, he has a path already, right? He has a CEV team. He has a manager contract. He has a team contract. He's good. He'll make it on his own path. I've seen that. Like, as crazy as it sounds, I think like Andrea Mino, right? Like, huge Moto3 guy, does not racing anymore, but huge Moto3 guy, right? Won races, won bunch of stuff, and he never got into Rookies Cup. He got kicked out. I think he tried 2 times and he got kicked out twice. Manuel Gonzalez, right?
Yeah.
Moto2 front runner now. I raced with him first year in Rookies Cup. He got kicked out after his first year.
Wow.
That's crazy.
And I don't think it was because he wasn't fast.
Yeah.
I think it was because of other external things around him. Just, being there, I kind of, saw things, heard things. And they're just like, oh, yeah, no, we don't really, they don't care, right?
Yeah.
They don't care at the end of the day.
Would you say, like, for kids in America that are younger than you that would want to do the Rebel Rookie Cup, like, what's something for them to be able to, how do they go about it? Like, what would you, it sounds like you is all timing.
Yeah.
How do you teach that to kids that are coming up the Junior Cup now and already on 4 strokes and, going up that, trying to get into the Rebel Rookie Cup?
Yeah, man, it's a hard topic, right? It's a hard topic because the level there is so high, and there's not accessibility here to get us ready. Like, that's the truth, right? Like, right now you look at we have an American Rookies Cup, Christian Daniel, he's doing great.
I didn't even know that. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
Christian
Did you
Daniel,
know that?
I did know that, yeah.
and he's doing great, but he's been racing over there for, I could be completely wrong, but I think 3-4 years. 4 years living in Spain, training in Spain, racing in Spain. He's been there.
And that's what's crazy is you don't even know that's how there's such a massive disconnect between America and the rest of the world is you don't know who he is, and we should be rooting for this kid and supporting him as our hopefully next kid to come through the system.
Yeah. No, and then
I feel like that's that's a little bit on everybody. I mean,
for sure.
You know, it's not MotoAmerica's job to promote people, but generally speaking, it should. I don't know. There should be a way to know more about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because like the reality is I mean, look what happened to me, right? I never raced MotoAmerica until after Rookies Cup, and then I showed up here and I did well, and everyone's like, "Oh, look, who's this guy?"
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, but I had 3 years overseas, being the only American, and where was the support there, right? So, yeah.
It's like they do a really good job once you leave here and go. Yeah. They like Joe, and when you like they constantly post about it, but before then it's very difficult. And I mean, it's a tough, you know, tough to who do you support and post. Like,
no, for sure.
Right, they got their own championship to worry about, but
no, 100%.
You know,
and it's also because of the route, right? Like, okay, Christian is now there in the championship, but then, you know, I've got he's like my little brother, Julian Correa. He's fighting to get into Rookies Cup next season, but he's racing in British Talent Cup right now, and he's fighting the championship. I think he can win the championship this year, and that's going to be a direct move into Rookies Cup. But he's also been there for 3 seasons racing British Talent Cup overseas. He lived in Europe last year. Now he's traveling back and forth this season, but he's over there, and he's been training over there. He went to Spain, I think a month ago, was in Spain for a month training, right? So it's like all that I see, like the young kids. What's the other one? Mikey Sanchez, you know, Texas kid. He's racing over there. He's doing good too. You know, he's a little bit younger, but what is he doing? He's living and he's racing over there for years as well. Yeah. So it's like unfortunately, it seems that the only American kids that have any chance right now is by being over there, by racing over there. And it's like, it's just the truth. Why? Because we don't have the bikes here. We don't have the tracks here. We don't have the accessibility. We don't have the level for the young ones, but we don't have the level because of the accessibility. And that sucks, right? That sucks because it's difficult for parents to have to do what, you know, the Daniels are doing, what Correa's family is doing, what Sanchez family is doing, of having to be over there. What my family had to do, right? We had to move completely, leave everything. My dad left his body shop. He sold his shop. He sold all the cars that he was working on. My parents put the house up for rent. My mom stopped working, and boom, we went overseas. It's like, yeah, it worked out. I mean, look what the position we're in now, but that's a lot, right? That's a big risk. That's leaving everything on the line. And it's like, yeah, it's, you know, it's great when you're fighting for the dream, but it's a handful. Not everyone can do it. You know what I mean? And I think that's because the breeding here is far from where it is right now overseas.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you think, over there, when you're like younger like that, you see those communities, who is supporting that over there? Obviously there's got to be funding coming from somewhere to, you know, I know everything's a lot more accessible. There's a lot more tracks, but is there are the teams starting younger? Like where like you have like a Moto3 team that's actually funding these little kids to like start Team Green and motocross here in the US. You know?
This alone, we could talk about this alone. It's such a big topic because the whole money and sponsors and this situation overseas is crazy, right? Because it's so different from when you're 8 years old and then from like up to Moto2, right? There's just so much to talk about. But I think that I almost don't even know how they do it, to be completely honest with you. I don't know how they're doing it because Spaniards don't necessarily, like normal families don't necessarily have that much money, right? They don't, like Spain is just kind of, you know, they work and they don't make millions of dollars for a normal family to make money. But there's still, I think it's the accessibility that they're just, with pennies, compared to here, with pennies, they can get a little bike. They can go out to the track. The track's open every day for 20 euros. Now here it's like $80 to go train, right? That alone, or not even, that's a lie. I think in Spain, I was paying like $30 a month and I could ride any day I wanted to.
That's crazy.
That's insane.
Right? So that's one little small example that it's just so much more accessible. And then every time you go ride, you've got GP guys there. GP guys riding.
That's what I was going to say.
So then the level is going up and then everything's easier. But then when you go into the actual competition, I think there's just so much more support from brands, right? Why? Like companies want to be there because everyone's eyes are on motorcycles over there. Like
it's
the
just
normal
different.
over there, it's soccer and MotoGP. That's like all they talk about, right? Whereas here, it's like you talk about road racing, they're like, what's that? You know, I mean, I think it's growing, but majority of people don't really know what it's at. Whereas over there, everybody knows. And so if everybody knows, then companies want to be involved. If companies are involved, money's there. And if the money's there, then, you know, then they can help the kids. They can help because, you know, I don't think young teams, like, you know, like European talent cups and all that, you still have to pay to ride and you have to pay big money. And there's still a lot of kids racing there. So the money's coming from somewhere, but the teams are the ones asking for money. Yeah. So they're still bringing it from somewhere.
What's the, like on any given day, like how many kids are showing up to these tracks? Like give us like a percentage or like a number, like is it 20 kids, 100 kids? Like, I mean, obviously 100 is too much, but like how many people are actually showing up? And I mean, you can see the notable guys that get to MotoGP, right? Because they seem to have a sponsor or somebody that follows them, goes to Aspar, and they run up the pipe, right? And especially Spaniards, right? We can talk about them, and Italians the same. But what, like, it seems like once they break through something, somebody latches on and they bring them up.
Yeah.
Like, how many kids are we talking showing up on a day? Like, is it a lot, or is it?
There's too much that they can even handle. Like, there's a lot. Like, there's enough that you can make like jam with them, dude. Like, there's so many, and it's almost sad in a way to be like, oh man, there's these many kids, and like, you know that like half of them are not going to be able to make it anywhere.
That's where I was kind of going with it.
Yeah, like literally, it is sad to be like, dude, they won't be able to because there's not enough.
It's like Little League here. Not everyone's going to MLB.
Yeah, you know? But these companies can literally sit back and watch that crop, and because it's so high that they can go, all right, we'll latch onto you. And
yeah.
What obviously you said your family went over there. Now are they back? They're back here, back to doing like your dad opened back up shop now that you're living in the U.S. again.
No, I made him go broke, and they couldn't open up any shop, unfortunately. But they came back. You know, we finished Rookies Cup the third year. Actually, the third season in Rookies Cup, my mom had to come back to the U.S. She was living with her best friend because my house was still up for rent, but she had to live. I mean, she had to work. They tried to get work in Spain, but being tourists, my parents couldn't work, so they couldn't. Obviously, if they couldn't work, they didn't add up. Yeah. So last season, it was only my dad and I out there. My mom was back in Miami. She was working, and then we finished Rookies Cup. I didn't get anything overseas for 2019. Ended up getting the deal here, and then we came back. Crazy enough, we came back. We got we went back to living in our house because it was rented out, but we didn't get the tenants that we had living in our house. Their contract for them to move out wasn't until March of 2019, and we got back in Miami end of the season of 2018. So like October, November. So for like 5-6 months, we didn't even have our own home, and we put an RV in our backyard. And we told them like, hey, is it cool if we just have our RV in the back and we'll just live here until you guys are out? And the three of us were living in an RV in the back of our own home, right? Which is just like crazy stuff that like nobody knows about. And it wasn't this RV, right? You know, like this RV is fucking beautiful. Yeah, it's badass.
Big Daddy.
Yeah, Big Papa. But dude, we had like my dad legit got it off of the auction. He got it off the auction. It was roof got fucked up. It was like a 2001 or 2002 RV. You know, still pretty spacious. The sliding doors and stuff. So it was nice, but it was still a 2002 with no roof on it, and pulled it up to the backyard. And
what do you mean, like a convertible?
It was no joke, almost like a convertible. Like half of it was just like it flew up.
Oh, wow.
So he just brought it. Luckily, it didn't have much damage. I think it would just recently happened. It had no water damage inside. And he brought it to the backyard, and he was like, yo, put the ladders up. I got the material here to fix the roof. I had no idea like what any of that was. And we got up to the top of the RV, and we just
Wow.
We fixed the roof of the
Doing
RV.
some roofing.
That's so
Yeah,
cool.
and that's where we were at for like I said, 5-6 months until we got our actual house back, and then we sold the RV.
That's crazy. When your parents are American citizens, or do they immigrate here?
Yeah, yeah.
So do they keep their passport
Yep.
from Venezuela as well, or they're
Argentina.
Argentina? Sorry, not Venezuela.
Close enough. This guy.
Dude, relax, dude.
Argentina. So are they dual citizens? Or are they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dual citizenship.
So when you
just like
going-
me.
You're dual citizen.
Yeah.
That's what I was gonna ask. So,
Yeah.
was there a point where you ever considered using that as your nationality to help with
Dude.
the European stuff? Because obviously
Yeah.
nationality plays a huge part in it.
Yeah, I've had this conversation so much. No joke, I had this convo like a week ago because ESPN's putting some pressure to run the Argentinian flag over here. But man, I had that conversation many times. But honestly, what bottom line is, I never wanted to run that because one, I felt like if I ran that, I kind of closed the door for me to run here as an American, right? And I'm kind of glad I thought of, or that's what we did, because I think it made my return here, like, well, not my return, but when I raced here for my first super sport season in 2019, I think the fact that I was, the American kid from Rookies Cup for 3 years, and I showed some progress, and I was like the American kid now coming here, I think that would have been a lot different if I was with the Argentinian flag. I don't think they would have looked at me the same, And I'm glad, because if I would have ran the Argentinian flag, nothing would have changed for me overseas. Nothing. Because between the Argentinian and the American, it's like they're still both good, like different flags, but it didn't really change anything me being over there, to be honest.
It's not like you're Spanish versus American.
No.
Yeah, it's not like there's some massive Argentinian companies.
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
and that's the other
To
thing.
be honest, like the U.S. passport's probably stronger
Was there?
at that point.
Isn't there some like Leandro Mercado? He's
Yeah.
Argentinian, right?
Yeah.
And he always had a lot of funding from Argentina. It
Yeah.
seemed like, at least. Is that true?
Early
you think?
on.
I think early on, and that's the other thing is like I probably would have changed it to the Argentinian flag if I had the support, the backing, something on paper that's like, hey, yeah, sign here, we'll do this for you, we'll help you with this, but that wasn't there. Like, there was nothing.
Yeah.
It was absolutely nothing. So it didn't make sense for us
Mercado.
whatsoever.
Dude, that's a name. I raced my first super sport race against him.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, we
crazy.
raced the Rookies Cup together.
Wow.
But no, I mean, and so when you go over to, I guess you'd been in Europe a little bit already, so they kind of knew that you were probably bilingual. But do you think it helped at all at that point, especially being like younger, being able to, because you speak Spanish, right?
Yeah,
Right from the start, yeah.
fluently, dude. That helped. That helps a lot.
Yeah.
It helps a lot. One, to how they, as fucked up as it sounds, how they look at you, because I not that they look at Americans bad, but it's different when I pop up and instead of saying, "Hey man," I say, "Hola, cómo estás?" And they're like, "What is this American guy doing?"
You're already
speaking
part of the
Spanish?"
club.
Yeah, and they're like, "Oh wow," and it's just so much easier.
They can't pull the wool over your eyes.
Yeah, it's just so much easier for me to create a relationship and start talking and create connections. And dude, at the end of the day, this industry is connections, right? You need to know people, you need to talk, you need to make those relations. And I had a lot of that from the get-go in my first year. And like it, even the switch of fast forwarding then to Moto2, right? Now I go to the paddock and I can talk to so many people, and like, not to say anything bad, like Cameron was my teammate, right? Love Cam, but I can guarantee you I can talk to a whole lot more people than him. Why? Because not that they don't know him, everyone knows who Cam is, but he just couldn't talk to anybody, right? And we talked about that a lot, of like how it was for him living over there, not being able to speak Spanish. That sucks, right? Whereas for me, like, dude, Spain for me now, that's like my second home. Like, I love it over there. I can live there. I live there. I can live there. I can be there. And I feel comfortable because I'm going around fluently speaking Spanish, doing this, doing that. I have friends. I do all this stuff. It makes it so much easier to move around. And I think a lot of the help I achieved, or the help I got, even like, during the Rookies Cup, was because I was able to create those relationships by speaking Spanish.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. When you came from Mexico, did you get, we talked with Richie about how hard it is, or you would think it would be easier in Mexico to get support because it's, there is money down there and so on and so forth, and there's not really anybody racing. But did anybody follow you from that time you just did the 390 stuff? Did you get some help?
A bunch.
Really?
A bunch. Like, I didn't get crazy, like, sponsors and funding, but I got so much, like, overall, like, fans, like, fan base, right? Like, dude, I was going through my Instagram the other day, and I was crazy, like, just seeing how many people that still like follow me, support me, and that we still kind of like chat up once in a while from when I raced Mexico. And I was just thinking, like, man, like that was 9 years ago already, and it's still like the fan base is there. But going back to when I did race in Mexico in 2015, like I did one round, and then by the next round they were covering all my hotel costs. They were I think at one point they might have helped me. They helped me. I didn't have like any helmet sponsor, no suit sponsor. That was all on me. They were helping me. Like they bought me a brand new AGV helmet, like just from one of the Mexican companies there. They just bought me a brand new AGV. Here you go. So it was there right away. Like nothing crazy, right? I didn't have a huge sponsor that was like, hey, we're gonna help you get overseas. No, but the support and the intention was there right away.
Yeah.
And did they think just maybe because you spoke Spanish as well in the Mexican Championship, was that just same sort of thing, just easier? They kind of like
accepted you a little bit.
Yeah, because you were just like you could speak to everybody. I mean,
yeah.
I know like if you didn't, maybe it'd be a little different.
Yeah.
Do you think you guys would have even considered it if you weren't Spanish speaking? Like, would that have been as much of an
easy
option?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably would have been horrible because imagine,
Yeah.
no offense to anybody, but Mexico is Mexico, some places that we raced at were sketchy,
Yeah.
Some little towns, they didn't speak, you go to Mexico City, you can probably get away with speaking English, but some little towns, no. Some little towns were super sketchy, and the owners of Racing Bike Mexico, the championship, they don't speak a word of English either.
Yeah.
So it would have been very difficult.
I remember just even when we were in the Rookies Cup, it was my first time ever to Spain, and it was my dad, and he's a world traveler, and it was weird. Like, even just the Rookies Cup for the first time, like you're like, what do we do? You just like Americans, only English there, just like by yourselves.
Yeah.
Like you're just kind of alienated right
bubble.
from right from the start.
Yep.
What were some of the wildest things? Obviously, that by your third year, because you did 3 years in Rookies Cup, right? By your third year, you were pretty competitive for most of the season, right?
Yeah.
What was some of the more wild like takeaways from that kind of, even now maybe you still like, there's things I learned when I did the Rookies Cup, like that Kevin Schwantz told me when I was 13 that it still stick with me now. Do you have any stuff like that you kind of?
Oh man, there's a lot. Like the Rookies Cup was, in general, the 3 years in Rookies Cup was what like made me, I think what truly made me a racer, because when I went in I remember the first test, Raul Fernandez I think it was like his second season, and I think he ended up winning the championship or finding the championship, I don't remember, but it was the second season. It was my first ever outing on the Rookies Cup bike, and dude, I got on the brakes and I thought that I was braking late, and he was still full tucked next to me and broke like 50 feet ahead of me, and I still remember that. And I don't, bad memory, but I imagine how much of an impact that was, that I still remember that. And I was like, oh my God, I have to do that. Like I'm far away, but like I ended up being a front runner in a way. I mean, I didn't fight for the championship my third season, but I fought in the front group. I never got that podium I wanted to, but I was up front. I had a front row. I led races, so I was there. But it took me, it took 3 seasons. It took a lot of building through, and that last year for me was crazy. Like I think the one of the highlights for me was my first ever front row was at Assen, and it was with the Onku brothers. And you look at what the Onku brothers have done and what they're doing, and they're two pretty big names as well. And I remember that first front row, I almost didn't sleep that entire night, because I was like, my heart was pumping, my adrenaline was pumping at that hotel room that night so much, because I was like, I'm gonna start in the front row at Assen in front of, there is people there, right? Like even for Rookies Cup, there is people lined up, a lot of people. That grandstand, especially Assen, there's a lot of people there.
Oh, yeah.
And dude, it was crazy experience, but I almost can't even pinpoint one thing to take out of that, like there's just so much that I gained, so much experience, so much value that I got from racing there, from being there, from just growing up, being in the Rookies Cup for those 3 seasons. And what's funny, I was having this convo also with somebody, like it's kind of slightly off topic to what you're asking, but the fact that I went in when I was 13 years old to Rookies Cup, in my last season I was 15. Now you can't even get into Rookies Cup until you're 15.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I didn't realize that until the other day, that, you know, it's just looking at the riders and who's in it and who's not and who's young. And it's like, dude, youngest guy is 15. And it's because the rules have changed, right? Of now you can't get into Moto3 until you're 18. So they're not going to have a 13-year-old in Rookies Cup because what are they going to do for 5 years? They can't be there for 5 years. And I was just thinking back at it, just within myself. I'm like, wow, I feel like that's such a big difference even for me, right? The fact that I went in there when I was that young, like I think there's the good and the bad to that, right? Because now I'm only 21, about to turn 22, and I have so much on my belt. Whereas if I would have gotten a Rookies Cup at 15, I wouldn't have all this under my belt. But at the same time, I'm like, maybe I would have been more prepared for it if I would have gotten in at 15 instead of 13. Right. But I mean, that's all what ifs.
Yeah,
but it's just crazy to think about how much it's changed now.
Yeah. I mean, 3 years at that age, the amount you can absorb it's much different than.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But the way you absorb it, I think too, when you're 13.
Like technique and stuff like that, and learning on the World Championship with those tracks, it's, you know, and they're very like violent races.
Oh yeah.
What do you think the biggest challenge was? Would you say, 2 questions, like, would you say that you're like a chipper, like you have to chip things away like little bit by little bit and really put things together like a puzzle, or like full send into the gravel trap, that's how you learn? Like,
no, I would say I've always been like a chipper. I've always chipped away at it. You look at my 3 years in Rookies Cup, you look at my 3 seasons in Super Sport. I've always been a chipper, but I feel like that's always like the range has kind of gotten shorter, you know? I mean, my first Superbike race at Atlanta was pretty up there already, you know? And it's just like, you know, well, I still have ways to go, but I almost kind of surprised myself being up there because I am more of that chipper, like starting to, you know, start a bit more chill and then make your way up. But that's also coming from Moto2 for 2 years, you know? And
you can't be like that over there.
No, you can't. And that's one of the big main things from, well, even from Rookies Cup. It started in Rookies Cup for me, and that helped me a lot coming then into Super Sport, was the fact that these kids, you know, they leave pit lane and they're touching their knee off of pit lane. Whereas here, you know, you kind of, you know, you take your time, you feel it out, see how the weather is. And it's like, no, dude, they're out of pit lane, knee down. And Moto2, next level. Moto2, sometimes 5th lap, they're doing lap records in FP1. And that's, you know, I don't think I got all the time in Moto2 for me to, you know, chip away at it and get to that. But, you know, in a season and a half, let's say 2 seasons, you still pick up on a lot of that. And I think now just naturally I have a lot more of that in my pocket. Not even in my pocket, but just naturally. Like, just even my riding style, like I was kind of looking back and I'm just like, oh, like I could tell that I ride a little bit different. Like, I don't feel like I searched to change my riding style, but it naturally happened, right? You just kind of adapt to what is around you, obviously, and that's just kind of where what you grow off of from being there over there.
Before we kind of dive into it, we're an hour in, so time for a little break.
Already?
Yeah, it flies by when you're having fun.
Talk too much.
Again, we want to thank our partner, Law Tigers. Law Tigers are America's motorcycle lawyers. A motorcycle accident isn't something you expect to have happen, but it does happen, unfortunately. So in the event you or somebody you know is injured or in an accident, please call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS. If you watch any of our podcasts, you know we have a little segment by Law Tigers. So do you have any tech tips, anything that you learned that you would suggest to a guy that's just getting into riding on the track maybe, that is important to you or that you've picked up over the years?
I would say practice. People don't practice enough. Even if you need to spend a couple extra $1,000 and get a little mini bike, go to your kart track, just practice. It's going to make you a better rider on the track, better rider on the street, make you safer.
And what would they work on if they, say, get that practice bike and go to a kart track? What would be your number one thing that you would want to work on?
Ooh. Be faster and be safer. right? Like, it's very generic, but there's so many factors. You can't pinpoint one thing. But how can you be faster and how can you be safer? I mean, I think that's something that Champ School says a lot. I'm not a Champ School guy, but but I think that's what they say. But I think there's so much benefit from riding mini bikes and riding on the kart track. I learned a lot. I went through kind of the drills school, like the figure eights and all that. I learned from Lorenzo's dad, from Jorge Lorenzo's dad. I went through his school for a couple years, and his main thing is like mini bike and couple cones, and you can get so much out of that. And that's what I grew up with for a few years, doing that consistently.
What does that teach you?
So much technique, so much control, so much technique, and both technique on the bike, but even mentally, because it's like clockwork, right? Like when you do a stupid figure eight that just looks so simple, right? You got two cones and a mini bike. Like what more? Like how much can you truly get out of it? It's like, man, try and do it perfectly. What is perfect for a figure eight, right? Try and do it perfectly. It's not easy. And that's what I did. I did that for like 4 years. I was kind of under his name's Chicho Lorenzo. I was kind of under his umbrella. More of like an online, like sending videos in and doing that, because obviously, he's overseas and I was in Spain. This is all like during the time frame of when I was just barely getting into like 2013, that I was starting to get into the big bikes, the Ninjas and all that. And then when I got into the KTM Cup in Mexico, and then right as I got into Rookies Cup, that was the time frame that I was really consistently training. Like that was my main training, I would say, of just mini bike training at a parking lot. Like I even there's a little parking lot in Miami that I called it the SDK compound, because I was just there. Like cops would just show up and they just watch me and be like, "Cool, man. Like we don't care."
Awesome.
Yeah, and that's just, again, something so simple, right? Mini bike and a few cones, but you can get so much out of it, of just being consistent. And just obviously if you don't have someone like I had, Jorge Lorenzo's dad, he's got good eye, right?
Definitely.
That's what he's got schools over there for that alone. So that was clearly the reference. If you go by yourself without doing it, you're not going to know what to do. You're just all you're going to do is get dizzy. But there's a lot, and that's actually one of the stuff that I'm not consistently coaching. I don't coach a lot, like one-on-one or any of that. But when I do a couple of coaching and do some drills, like SFO Mini GP, they're kind of going towards that now, of doing small drills, very basic things, but that can go a really long way.
That's awesome. We really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And again, if you have any incidents on the street, please call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, we were just started to kind of get back into coming to the U.S., which is obviously, there's a lot to unpack there in itself. So coming from, the Rookies Cup, you came back to the U.S. twice now. So the first time coming back to the U.S. from the Rookies Cup, what does that process look like when they actually are like, I know from the U.S. version, but like obviously your first 2 years you struggled a bit, you were learning a lot, and then the third year I assume they kind of like, even though you improved, they still cut you. So like, what does that look like? What was their kind of justification for keeping you for 2 years where your results were actually worse? You got better, but then they were like, okay, we're done. Yeah.
So what's funny is 3 years is the max for Rookies Cup.
Oh, okay.
So I went into my third season in Rookies Cup knowing it was my last year. So I was like, all or nothing. The relationship with Rookies Cup was amazing. Like if it were for them, they would be like, yeah, well, if it were for us, but that was kind of their max. Like, again, back to the age thing. At the time, 15 was kind of like, yeah, they want to kind of get kids going, right? 3 seasons, that's kind of it. That's where it's at. So I almost have to be grateful, because there was very little amount of riders that did get 3 years. Excuse me. That only got 3 years in Rookies Cup, and I was one of those. So I'm really grateful for that. The issue is I finished Rookies Cup. Obviously, I didn't win the championship, so it wasn't like I didn't get a guaranteed spot anywhere. We wanted to stay in Europe. The natural jump would have been Moto3 European, right? What now is Junior GP, but the CEV, right? CEV Moto3,
Spanish.
Yeah, Spanish. That would have been the natural route. And it's like, yeah, there was a bunch of people who were like, oh yeah, like we want you, $150,000, right? and that was more than unrealistic for my
Your
parents.
were already struggling.
Oh,
after 3
they
years
were
in
on the
Europe.
limit. Yeah, they were on the limit, absolute limit. So super unrealistic. And for a handful of months, I thought I was done. Like I thought that was it. You know, my parents were on the absolute limit of financially, just being overseas for the 3 years. Clearly didn't have any sponsors. I didn't have any money, anything to pay for any rides. Every ride in Europe, they wanted money, and I had nothing. You know, a couple things started moving over here to see if we could get something, but nothing was really lining up. And then the whole way that I ended up getting the deal with Team Hammer was also, that alone is a pretty big talk, but that was the whole make it or break it, you know, like that's what changed everything for me. Like once I got that contract, it was like, okay, I'm good. I can breathe, you know.
And that pretty much just came off of a test at the Race of Champions, right? They had you come ride the bike.
Yeah. All thanks to Robertino Pietri.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the one that bike that weekend at Race of Champions, he was supposed to ride that. And as much as he says that it was because he couldn't make it, I think it was, you know, I think he wanted to help me out. Like he's helped me out a shit ton in my career with things like this, you know, like something that seemed so small to me at the time of like, oh, he just couldn't make it to the Race of Champions and he told me to go. Like, okay, something so small, but I actually talked to him about it not too long ago. I'm like, dude, you did that on purpose, didn't you? You know, because he knew I didn't have a ride, and he knew that was going to be the way for the Orches to get their true eyes or a test with me to see if, you know, is it worth it? Am I worth it? You know? And then, you know, I went to the Race of Champions. It went well. First time on a super sport bike. I loved it. First time at Daytona. It was amazing. You know, obviously Race of Champions doesn't have too much competition, but it was still a good first outing. Won the Race of Champions, you know, JU was all happy and all good, but still finished there. And this was, you know, only October, and I finished there and it was like kind of crickets, like still nothing, you know, all good. Thumbs up. Thank you. But I was still technically only replacing Robertino, who was supposed to do that. So you know how it is. A replacement's a replacement. That's it. So I finished there, and then October, November, December goes by, and there was kind of like a middleman in between. I like sort of had a manager at the time. Really, it was like a guy that was trying to help me out, you know, with some, you know, sponsorship, let's say manager sponsorship, trying to take me overseas. And you know how it is, crazy stuff that, yes, you know, we're going to go here, but no, you're not going to go here. No, I don't want to spend this money. I did a test on a Moto2 CEV bike in November overseas and wadded it hard, like huge wad.
Wow.
Like dislocated I didn't dislocate, but I like separated my shoulder. And then he was like, he got all pissed off because he was paying for the test. He got all pissed off. And to be fair, the Moto2 bike was a suitor. Those things are like in the trash bins now because they're so bad, but whatever. No excuse. I wadded
Clear
it.
the air.
Yeah, let's clear it up. Dude. Not that bad. No.
Did you keep the crash quiet
Um,
from Orches or anything? Did they know?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think I told them because I got kind of hurt, and maybe like once we were talking after. No, I do. Actually, I do know the answer to that. Yes, they know because they knew about this middle guy, right? That was kind of trying to help me pay for something overseas, and the Orches knew very well about him because he was also kind of talking, just talking, right? And when that crash happened, this guy blew up, was kind of crazy. And then I was like, okay, I don't want anything to do with this guy. And then I spoke to the Orches and I'm like, hey, this guy blew up because of X, Y, and Z. And they're like, oh, okay, don't stress it. And at that point I was like, wow, now I truly don't have anything. And then I was in Spain, in Barcelona, it was first week of December, and I called up JU. I still remember exactly where I was when I called him, and I'm like, John, I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I don't have money. I don't have sponsors. I don't have a ride. The only guy I thought that was going to be able to pay for something completely out of the picture. Can you help me? Can you do anything at all? And his response was, when can you come to Cali? I was like, I'll be there next week. He's like, okay, cool. Come to my office. And I fly by myself from Barcelona that next week. My parents were still in Miami at the time because I was just by myself for this test. I fly by myself to.
With a separated shoulder, or is this after in December?
This I was already like healing up at the time. Like
but
was
still overseas.
Yeah, I was
Got it.
overseas,
Cool.
but I flew back like first or second week of December.
Yep.
This is end of 2018. I flew back. I flew to Cali, and I show up to the Ulrich's office, and he had a 2-year contract waiting for me,
Wow.
just like that.
Wow.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
Now
I could not believe it.
This you're 16.
Yeah.
At this time, right? So like flying back and forth, all this stuff. You obviously weren't making money in the Rookies Cup.
No.
So how are you surviving? Like, was it your parents like just give you a credit card and were like,
Yeah,
rack
my,
it
yeah.
up?
My parents were literally
Really?
just like whatever extra they had. In fact, I didn't even know this until I spoke to Tino at Daytona. I didn't realize. I don't remember. Right. I wasn't aware of it. That flight to the Race of Champions, my parents couldn't afford it. Tino got it for me. He paid for that ticket for me
Wow.
to be able to go to the Race of Champions because my parents couldn't afford it. They were like, yeah, we want him to race, but they were
tapped.
I guess they were fully tapped, right? And I don't remember exactly what it was financially for me to get to Cali, but maybe it was just this is a question for my parents. Maybe they'll remember, right? Maybe they were just like, hey, like this is the last chance for our son to race motorcycles. So if it's a $500 ticket, like boom, go.
Did you know that you were going to get signed, or was this just you were just going? Like, did you have a feeling? Like,
I had a feeling.
okay, but you didn't know.
I didn't know any details. I
He
didn't know
wasn't making you fly to California to tell you we don't have anything for you.
exactly. Yeah. So I wasn't 100% sure, but it was in that direction, right? Everything was going in that direction, but I didn't know anything.
Did you?
I didn't know like I ended up getting paid by them, right? I had no idea. Like I didn't know if it was gonna be when I saw the contract and they're like, yeah, you're gonna get paid and it's gonna be this and it's gonna be that. I'm like, dude, I started crying, right? Like I couldn't believe it. I called my parents up and they were fucking sobbing. Like it was insane. Like
And did you know were you like financially like literate then?
Did you know
Like-
the situation with your parents and whatnot?
Well, no, did you understand money and like when you were 16 living by yourself, like, or did you were you just like,
I thought I did, but now that I'm a lot more, understanding of that, I look back and I'm like, yeah, no idea. No
yeah,
idea.
you just went there and swipe
Yeah.
and like you ate and did what you
I
needed
feel like when
to
you're
do.
that age, things just happen.
Yeah.
Like there's no like thought process
No
behind the
idea,
money that's
yeah.
in and out, and or who's even paying for this stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I did everything with my dad, right? Like during the whole season, I did everything with my dad. So, we weren't eating out. We were cooking at home, and
Yeah.
everything was at home, except for this little last month, right? That my parents had to be back, and then I was flying. I had to fly back.
So
for
like,
this.
where were you in Spain? Who were you with? Like 16, you can't drive, you can't.
Yeah.
You're not taking public transportation,
Yeah.
are you?
No, no.
Somebody's helping you.
Yeah, so I had like they're like my Spanish brothers. Like I talk to them like almost every day, and they help me through a lot of. They're the ones that helped me. Me and my parents first moved to there. Like they helped us find a place. They helped us get a car.
Who are they?
Jordi and Carlitos. They're no one that like it's just
Fine.
yeah, they're just in the industry. Like they love racing. They kind of they're in the they don't even club race. Like they have some bikes to practice with, and they're just enthusiasts.
And
yeah.
they
they
like you, and they
yeah,
just want
and
to help.
we met in Rookies Cup because they were in the selection event because they were with somebody else, and then when I got in, we just started talking, and yeah, it's just how it is.
Yeah,
this
definitely.
little world, and now we're like
Super.
family.
That's really cool.
We're like family now, and it's
That's what it takes, though. It's,
Yeah.
People don't realize like those little people who aren't even like anything. They're not giving you tons of money, but just having
dude,
that support.
it's priceless.
Yeah.
Like what they haven't not a logo, but it's priceless what they've done for like how much they've helped me with, and like now they're family, right? They're like my Spanish brothers, like I said. So yeah, they're during that time. Actually, when I made that phone call, I was at his house. Yeah.
So when all right, let's keep going. You come to the Ulrich's. He's got this contract. You're 16, sitting across from John Ulrich. I mean, at the time, like he's one of the most successful teams in MotoAmerica.
Yeah.
You probably still can't comprehend it. I mean, but I'm assuming you're nervous, right? And what's that like going through like going through a contract, maybe for your first time, like really going through a contract and seeing like whatever the number is, but just seeing some sort of financial bonus, salary, whatever you want to call it. And like,
I don't even think I went through the contract.
I mean, I
was like,
where's the line?
2 years with Team Hammer and gonna get paid to race? Yeah, let's go. No, I mean, I'm pretty sure we got it looked at. I think I don't remember the details, but I remember the big blur of like just the fact that I got signed with these guys, right? And I was 2 years, and I was gonna get paid, and a big part of it was bonuses.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it changed everything. Like, dude, it changed. Obviously, my career changed my life, but it also changed my family's life because, again, they were on the limit, right? And the fact that, like, I was like, it's not like I was getting paid and then everything was going in my pocket and I was, saying screw my family. No, like it was our money, like even to this day, like some people might disagree with me, but majority of my money is our money. That's just how I am, right? People might disagree with me. People do disagree with me, like, even family people that I talk about it with, but that's just how I am, right? That's everything they did for me and where I've gotten to and what we're doing. Like, that's just how it is. That's just how I grew up. I'm a family person. That's just how it is. So for me, getting to that point to where everything was able to switch so rapidly, right? From being on the absolute limit to not having about to not race motorcycles anymore, and then boom, next thing I know, I'm got a contract with one of the best teams in the States, and I'm only 16, and I start to get some money, and then things start to go well. It's unbelievable, like unbelievable.
And is that a culture thing, you think, like in Argentina or being Argentinian? Is that like a culture thing growing up, like what's ours? Like what comes in is a family thing, or is that just a you thing? I think it's a massive touchy subject. Motocross, Supercross, like these, MOB, like these, a lot of kids, their family sacrifice, they get paid, and it's like, whoa, there's a massive split now.
Yeah.
In the family, there's like that ridge down the middle of, you get $100,000, and now the kid's like, it's a touchy subject both ways.
Yeah, so many details, but
it's interesting to understand where that culture came from. You say it's at a young age. Is that some sort of Argentinian culture or just your culture with your family? I
mean, I don't even know so much. I think it's partially the Argentinian culture, which is why my parents are the way they are, but it's just the way I grew up, right? Like I don't stress about that. Like I don't even think twice about it, but I'm sure it would be different if it wasn't the sacrifice the sacrifice from my parents weren't there, and I wasn't in racing, and I was just like a normal kid in school, and now I'm just like, just working a normal day job, then that would be different. I'm sure things would be much different. But the fact that we went through everything we went through, and they did everything for me, like, dude, I don't, like, money won't even give back, like, and so that's why I straight up do not care.
And as 16-year-old, was it big money or?
After the bonuses, I think yes, but it's so relative, right? Like it's so relative.
It wasn't enough to cover what they had spent that
not,
far.
No, not even close. I mean, it was amazing. That it was big money compared to what we went through the last 3 years.
What you had to spend versus.
Yeah, exactly. So that it was big money compared to that. It still wasn't enough to completely get us out of like.
Your parents couldn't stop working, and
everybody
had to work.
Right? Yeah, they're still working, right?
No, I understand.
but it was enough to get our feet out of the like we were in quicksand, right? It got us out of the quicksand, and it's just got us moving. It got
everybody breathing.
Exactly.
Relieve some pressure.
Yeah, and
allowed you to continue your dream.
Exactly, and luckily that was 2019. That was still a pretty good time of Suzuki, so bonuses were quite good. 2020 it got worse. 21 it got even worse. Right. So luckily it was still a decent time, and it helped us huge to get moving.
When you were throughout this whole time period, were you homeschooled?
Yeah, I was I've been homeschooled. I never went to physical high school.
Really? Oh wow.
I finished middle school. Sorry, that's a lie. I didn't even finish middle school. Eighth grade is middle school, right? I don't even remember.
7th, 8th grade is middle school.
Yeah, 6, 7, 8 is middle school.
Yeah.
So halfway through 8th grade is when I had to move to Spain, and I did my transition to Florida virtual school, and I just did online. Did online for.
And you finished?
I finished, but I ended up getting my GED as soon as I got back from overseas, because it was, online, how online school is. It was like super complicated, and I was overseas, and I had to come back for some tests, and I couldn't come back for tests. And then they ended up like saying that I had to do some more credits online, and I don't know, it was something like that. And this was during the 3 years of Rookies Cup. And then that was one of my things about my parents, that they were not ever super crazy about, like, I have to get a diploma or I have to go to college. They were nothing crazy about that, but they're like, you need to study though. Like you need to study. And I've always been a good student, but obviously being in online school, it was hard, right? Being overseas, being in Spain, and it was kind of weird. And then I finished Rookies Cup, and then at this time frame when I signed with Team Hammer, came back to the States, and my parents told me, they're like, hey, you need to finish high school. Like, you need to do whatever you get. They didn't even know what I had to do, but they're like, we don't care. Like, figure it out.
You gotta get a GED.
Yeah,
Something.
like finish it. Whether it's whether it's go to school, whether it's do your classes, whether it's get your GED, we don't care, but get it. And then craziest story too, to be honest, but I don't want to get into detail. It's the craziest thing, but I ended up going to Miami-Dade College, a community college, because that's where you get your GED. Popped up in there, hey, want to get my GED? They're like, okay, cool. You need to do a practice test to see where you're at, see where your levels are at, because they need to see if you need to either do 10 classes in math or if you don't need any classes at all. I end up doing it. They get the scores back, and they're like, this is the highest score we've ever had for a practice GED. It's just like, it's community college, so I don't know who's been there. But I'm like, all right, cool, stoked. So I'm like, when do I do my actual GED? And they're like, no, like, it's mandatory that you need to do at least 3 classes. I was like, why? Like, you just told me I did the highest class. Like, I could just, like, the highest score, I could just get my GED, like, now. Yeah. And they're like, no, like, you need to do some classes. They're like, but we're going to put you in our honors program. I'm like, what's honors?
So it's going to be harder?
Dude, no. It ended up being crazy. They're like, yeah, we're going to put you in our honors program, which means you need to do 2 months of coming to the school for classes at least once a week, which is no biggie, right? No big deal. At least once a week, but every time you come, we're going to pay you.
What?
I swear, dude.
What?
I swear, dude. I'm like, no, this is a joke, right? There's no way I'm going to get paid to come to school like a couple times a week. And they're like, yeah, no, that's what the honors program is. Like, our honors program pays our students to come and study for them to be able to, like, kind of keep going. Dude, I ended up getting like 3 checks from Miami-Dade College. like few thousands of dollars.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like,
wow.
I got like, maybe in total I got like 3-4 grand, but still from Miami-Dade College, all just because I went to get my GED.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's why I don't want to spend too much
moved
detail
to Miami,
on that,
James.
I didn't want to spend too much detail on this, but I think it's crazy
that's
story.
Cool.
Like,
that is crazy.
And so I got my GED, a couple months after that.
Do you feel like not going to college or middle school, high school, etc., like, do you miss out on any of that stuff? Obviously, you've made a ton of friends racing, and you have like your whole life's racing. But do you feel like you missed out on any of that stuff?
I mean, there's always the thought. The thought always goes through like, oh man, I wonder what it would have been for me to be in high school. I like screwing around with friends, and it's just like my personality is just like talking a lot, and I like that. It's just how I am. So I'm like, oh, I wonder how I would have been in high school. But then I'm always like, but my life is like as badass as it can be. So like, I don't actually stress it, like, stress thing. It's just like, oh, wonder what it would have been like. But it's not an actual, like, I wish. No, I don't wish anything.
Did you go to prom or anything?
No, fuck that.
Yeah,
none
so
of that.
you missed everything.
Yeah, no, none of that. But again, like, I don't even like stress about it because I never. Maybe if I would have lived a first year of high school, then that would have been really hard. But because I never lived any of that, like from the get go, then I don't know. So.
Do you have friends at home, like in Miami, that are separate from racing?
Yeah, okay. Big time. Like, actually, like my main, like, brother my 2 brother from another mother, they both have nothing to do with racing.
Yeah.
Like obviously they support me and they've come to a couple rounds and stuff, but they don't know. They don't have nothing.
I think
to do
that's
with
good to
racing.
have sometimes.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
you know
Balance.
when your world is
you-
just so much of one thing.
Big time.
I think that's something I was lucky with. Just I graduated regular high school.
Yep.
I didn't race in Europe or anything, so it was a
Yeah.
little bit easier. But you know, I still have friends at home that are like literally could not give a shit about motorcycles whatsoever. You know,
Yeah.
and sometimes
Yeah.
it's nice to get away from.
I think
from
you
that.
need it.
Yeah.
I think you need it big time, and I think that was even one of the things that made me feel so much better coming back home now. It's like, oh, I'm back with these people, right? I barely saw them for the last 2 years. So to be back and have that balance, that like heavy balance again was huge. I mean, luckily I had my girlfriend Gabby with me overseas, and that was kind of like my separation, my disconnection, because, you know, she now she knows about racing, but she had no idea what racing was. And that helps that balance, you know, just kind of keep things separated at home, you know, and I think you need it.
So moving from there, you're now signed to. I'm moving on here.
Yeah.
Sorry, and
Just keep it a secret.
no, we're just keeping it going.
Serious.
Moving on to you get the deal for M4. You're having a good season. Was it easier than you expected to walk into Supersport, riding a Supersport like a 600, and do so well your first year with podiums and whatnot, finishing fourth in Supersport in 2019? Like, was it hard, or was it?
No,
I mean,
it was.
You
it
had
was,
good success right
yeah,
away.
it was good, but it was hard. It was hard because the competition was pretty fierce that year. You know, we had. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's always going to be fierce. You know, there's always going to be good.
Maybe the wording's different, like not easy, but was it? Did you feel more natural on a 600 riding so many little bikes? You know, like stepping onto a 600.
Yeah, for sure. I felt more comfortable on the Supersport right away.
Okay.
And you know, to be honest, I never felt. What's crazy is, you know, I've raced 2 GP bikes in my life. I would say the Moto3 Rookies Cup KTM, you know, older Moto3 bike, but it's still a GP chassis, and the Moto2 GP chassis, and I never really felt all that comfortable with them. I don't know if it was for a lack of time or for a lack of, you know, my last season I was getting there with the Rookies Cup bike, but then when I go from that and then when I jumped on the Supersport my first season, I felt way more at home right away. For sure the competition was fierce, but I had so much to learn. You know, I was only 16, and, you know, I was still there. I was in the battle, and I won 2 races in Pittsburgh in my rookie season. So I think it was successful. It was good. And it just came from that, from just feeling more natural on that production chassis, I think.
What would you say, like, for somebody at home who doesn't really understand the, you know, technicalities of bikes? What is like the biggest difference to you when you go from a production bike to one of those GP chassis?
Yeah. So I think the basic, like the easy term is that the bikes that we race here, right? Superbike, super sports, production bikes, those are bikes that they're actually built for the street, right? They're built to be comfortable. Now there's R&D, and they have, you know, they might try to make it as good as possible, but it's still a street bike, right? They're still made to be comfortable bikes. A GP bike like a Moto2 or Moto3, they don't care anything about comfort. That is from ground zero. They're built for the racetrack, and that shows. That shows with how rigid they are. That shows with just the way that the bike responds to your inputs is so different from production to a GP, right? I mean, what GPs have you ridden?
I rode one at Indy. I rode the Tech 3 chassis, Moto2.
Moto2.
Before you were
Yeah.
born.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were. I don't even know where you were. You weren't here.
And what was your feeling with that?
Yeah, it was a piece of shit.
Stiff as hell,
It was
right?
it was an absolute pile.
That was a suitor.
No, it was I don't even know how you call it. Tech 3 chassis, Mistral.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Sorry,
I
Hervé,
remember
but
that.
this thing was a
Sorry,
piece
Hervé.
of shit. I chattered so much. Do you get chatter, like on the
They don't
because
chatter
you
so
rode a
much.
KTM and a Calyx, right?
And then last
Oh, yeah,
year
the forward.
the forward. Yeah, so I've gone through a few chassis.
I heard the KTM
and the suitor actually.
but the KTM was steel chassis. No,
tube.
but aluminum.
Tube.
Yeah, but I think it was steel.
So you're right. Yeah, tube. Yeah, because it was tubular steel.
Did
yeah.
it have better feel than the Calyx? Or did any of them have good feel, or was it just stiff? I just remember how
All-
stiff it was.
all
Like
stiff as hell.
if it like spun, it would just like it would
Exactly.
just
crazy
yeah.
stiff. Plus then you combine those Dunlop tires. I mean, now they're with Pirellis, which I think looks a little bit better. But you combine that, and man, you can't compare a production chassis and a GP chassis from the mini bikes to the super bikes to the full bikes, the Moto2s, let alone a GP. I don't know how that MotoGP bike would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't compare any of that.
So would you take your Moto2 bike over your M4 bike?
Like if it was the best.
Like if you had to buy one, you had $1 million. Which one are you buying?
You can only buy those two.
Shit, that's a hard question. No, I would say the Moto2 bike because it's a lot of fun to ride. It's just when you're in the Moto2 World Championship to take
not so
it
much fun.
to find that last 9/10 to be at lap record, it's ridiculous, right? But as a fun, like I would love to try a Moto2 bike here at Barber, right? With this asphalt, that'd probably be sick. But to be at that very, very edge with all the with the World Championship with those guys that obviously know what they're doing, it's gnarly.
So you leave Rookies Cup, you come back here, you get the deal, you have great success your first year. Now you're getting a wild card again back in the World Championship.
Already forgot about that.
What's your like? What's that like going back? Now you have a year of success, your confidence back growing, you're having a good time. Now you're back in the World Championship. What's the feelings?
Oh man, that was
no expectations.
That was so wild because that completely caught me off guard, like huge, right? I didn't imagine literally a year before my wild card, I was finishing a Rookies Cup and I didn't know if I was going to race again. And then a year later, 365 days later, I'm wild carding in the World Championship in Moto2. And it was because of Lacona going up to GP for that weekend. And they needed the replacement and they called me up. And I still remember going through pit lane and having Alex Marquez and Brad Binder like on both sides. And I'm going back and forth looking at them. I'm like, what am I doing here, man? Like, wow, unbelievable, right? Like even now, look at the names I'm talking about, right? And I was 17 at the time. And I couldn't believe what was happening, what was going through. And it was a good weekend. Like, unfortunately I crashed with like a lap to go, which sucked. But man, even that, like, it was a solid weekend. Like my first ever time on Moto2 bike. Well, except for that little test, but first real weekend with that bike, KTM. First time racing at Valencia. First time on Moto2, way over anything else. And I still qualified like 1.6, I think, off 1.7 around there. And I was like, I wasn't dead last in the race. Like I was fighting obviously with like the back guys, but for my first ever time there, I was like, I just remember I was just mind blown, right? Like, there was just so much going on. The grandstands were freaking packed. And like, yeah, I had seen that with the Rookies Cup, those packed weekends. But when you're in one of those main classes, when you're in the intermediate, like the one before GP, it's different, right? It just hits completely different. So, dude, it was a huge weekend for me. And the biggest thing for me that weekend is that when I finished that weekend, I said, I want to be here. Like this is where I want to be. Like I want to make it here.
So the goals shifted.
And that's, yeah. And it's not even that I shifted. I don't think I was so just 100% certain of where I wanted, like where I could get. Really, it's not about where I wanted to get. It's where I could get, right?
Because I see it.
I wanted to get to GP always, right? But when I was after Rookies Cup and I got into that first season in the Super Sport, I didn't really know. Like I didn't know what the path was going to be. My objective was always to try and win Super Sport and go to Moto2. That was always the path, like the objective. That was kind of in the back of my head. But up until that wild card, I didn't really feel like, hey, this is where I need to be. And after that weekend, I remember telling myself, this is where I need to be. This is the paddock where I need to be. And then, a couple of years later, I made it.
When you come back to the U.S. after doing that, do you feel like you have like a new confidence, kind of just being on the grid with those guys? Like I feel like, when you are riding amongst people you kind of dream about riding amongst it kind of, and you feel like you belong there somewhat.
Yeah.
When you come back to here, it's like,
Yeah, I think it was almost not so much like feeling like, shoulders get puffed up or chest comes out anymore. Not any of
just
that.
like self-belief though, I guess. More,
Yeah,
I mean.
it was a self-belief, and it just made me work harder, honestly. I think that really made me work harder because I knew that was the place where I wanted to be, where I could get to, and I knew what it took. So it just made me work harder, right? And then
became like attainable, so then it's almost like
yeah, exactly. Like, oh, I can actually get there. Like, you feel it, it's still at fingertips, but you can get there. So it really, I think that was the biggest change for me mentally.
You take it through the off season, and then you come out 2021 firing essentially.
Yeah.
And you had probably arguably one of your best years ever, right?
Well, I had 2020 in between there.
Oh yeah.
I had 2020, which 2020 was crazy because Richie whooped my ass like almost every weekend, But as much as a hard year that was for me, like that was a hard year because I got whooped and there was like nothing I could do. And as much as I hated that year in general, I look back and I'm like, dude, I learned so much that year. Like it made me like just take out something that I didn't know where to take it out from, And then boom, I go into 2021 and then, I think
kind of dominate.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that was amazing. That was the most fun I ever had, the most amazing year I've ever had. And it showed, you know what I mean?
So was that your first time in your career kind of really like being at the front, like learning how to lead races and win races?
Oh yeah, big time. Like that, yeah, for sure.
What is that? Obviously a lot of people don't know what that feeling's like at all in general, but what is that? What
it feels like?
What is that kind of difference like when you actually get to that point where it's, I don't know, I feel like when you're like same thing, you're always like, you can do it because you wouldn't be racing if you didn't think you could, but then all of a sudden it happens and it's like everyone who talks about that, like that you get that first win and then your confidence and it's like you can keep on winning.
Yeah.
But what is that for you? What was that feeling like? Like, did it feel like, okay, again, I belong here now?
Yeah, so it was still a big building for me because, I won a couple races in my rookie year. I won like 5 or 6 races in 2020. So I was familiar with being up front, with racing, with leading, with, being there. But 21 was, I still remember going into that season like with a complete question mark in my head because I didn't know if Richie was going to whoop my ass again. Like in 2020, straight up, I got whooped, right? And like, I talked a lot of BS about the whole, like the rules of, the Cowie and my Suzuki and, all that stuff. I talked a lot about it. Again, like now it's done. It's way past, right? Now I can laugh about it. I know it taught me a lot, but the reality is when I went into 2021, I didn't know if the rules were going to be the same. I didn't know if my bike was going to be better or worse. I didn't know if Richie's bike was going to be better or worse. If I was going to be better or worse. If Richie was going to be better or worse. I didn't know anything, right? So I remember going into that season, I'm like, I don't know what's going to happen. I might get completely smashed. I might smash. I just remember working to be the number one. That's all I was working for. I just want to be. And I remember I was working as a Moto2 guy. Like, because my goal was already over there, right? So I was like, for me to get to Moto2, I needed to work like I'm a Moto2 guy. So I was working like crazy. And when I say working, I mean like physically, technically, like training, like everything I was doing was my mentality was I need to train like I'm a Moto2 guy, right? To be able to get to that level. Because if not, you'll never make it, right? If I train at, let's say the super sport level, then maybe I wouldn't have been ready for Moto2, So I put myself up to that, my own like standard, to train there. And then when I showed up to Atlanta, I was, I won that first weekend and I was like, oh wow, like this might be a good year.
And was Richie your only competitor that you were like looking at in those championships? Who else was?
Those 2 years, yeah. Like realistically, there was just us two.
And then where did Hayden fit in? When was that time when he was riding for ridiculous?
That was only my rookie year.
Oh, okay.
Come
so that's pretty
2020,
far back.
come 2020, he wasn't
They
there
were out.
anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just trying to fit the
Yeah,
timelines
19
in.
was the year with all the drama with.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, exactly. So 20 and 21, there was just me and Richie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, I was just remembering because I came back and I remember, for some reason I remember the Hayden thing. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty, yeah, it was like a water bottle or something.
That whole deal.
That was big
Yeah.
drama.
And you were young too,
Yeah,
right?
that
'Cause
was my
that's-
first season.
So how did you get through that?
Dude, so oh man, it's funny. I haven't like actually talked about this in a long time, or if ever public. I've never really talked about it. Talked to a lot of people about it, but you know, the issue is, I mean, the issue is my dad fucked up, right? Like for sure. But I'm always gonna stand up for my dad. You know, he's my dad, and everything we've gone through, and the way we are, the way our culture is, you know, we're very,
Yeah.
Hard on your sleeve, kind of.
yeah, you know, we're energetic. You know, we have passion. We have a lot of passion, and you know, I haven't talked to Hayden like ever really, like especially not after, like we haven't talked. But to be honest, whether he was doing it on purpose or not on purpose, he wasn't the coolest guy to rookie me, and he played with me quite a bit, a handful of times. And what I tell people is my dad was kind of like a balloon, right? Like when you put air in a balloon, it starts filling up. And it was like every incident I had with Hayden, he would fill up. He would fill up. And then come New Jersey, you know, race one, like me and him were like going bam, bam. I think we were fighting for P3, P2. I don't know. We weren't fighting for the win, but we were fighting for it. And it was like, you know, at first it was like, yeah, you know, we're fighting hard, but it was like, oh man, like this is getting kind of dirty, you know, like, you know that in between, it was kind of getting over. And then finish race one, go to race two on Sunday, and it was like straight out the gate, he's like fucking boom, like aggressive. And I'm like, shit, you know, like I'm still the rookie. I'm still the small guy, right? He's big guy. I'm small guy coming from Rookies Cup. But I'm there. I'm fighting for it. And then, you know, we had that incident happen that he didn't give me any room whatsoever. Hit my handlebar. I go down. I'm obviously super livid because I just know that it was as much as they say it wasn't a racing incident, dude. I've raced, right? I've raced a lot.
Yeah.
It wasn't. And so that air went in that balloon, and that balloon popped. That was my dad. That fucking balloon popped. So when he saw him, he did the best fucking best throw of his whole life, dude. And for someone who's listening to this, whoever doesn't know about it, now you'll know about it. My dad had a half empty water bottle in his hand, and when the race finished and I was already like coming back with my crashed on the crash truck, my dad grabbed the water bottle and just from like, dude, it was impressive. It was from like 20 feet away, just grabs it and just, while he was getting grabbed on from like team members, he throws the water bottle and hits Hayden's helmet, which luckily was closed. Water bottle breaks and spats open, and you know, nothing happened except for the fact that it was on video. Everyone found out, and then my dad got kicked out for 8 race weekends.
Dude, I remember that video because like I just came back. I had nothing.
It's still up.
Oh,
Look, a bunch of people are
no,
going to
it's
be
going in
searching
a
it
reel
up.
for sure.
Oh, dude, don't do him dirty, please. Well, come on, we're past that.
No, dude, it's interesting because I think, I don't know this, but Hayden's definitely chilled out, right? He's got a couple kids now, and
He's a bulldog though.
he is a bulldog. It's tough to race Hayden. Luckily, I was his teammate, and I got some grace there. But
that's right, yeah.
You know, but he's been super chill. So, but I always wanted to understand like what that really, you know, like how that kind of happened, and why do you think it was you they singled out during the year? Was it just like, was it something that just a spark and a?
I don't know, dude.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know, right?
There was
like
nothing that was like this
again,
happened.
Maybe if I talk to him now, like we'll be able to talk and like everything will be fine and chill and like okay, and we'll get like different perspectives. My perspective at that time, I haven't thought about it now, but from that time, my perspective was he was the guy to beat, right? He almost won the championship the year before. I go in, the rookie, right? 17 years old and I'm like fighting up front and I'm beating him in some races, that might bother some people. Right?
Yeah, no,
and
for
maybe
sure.
maybe that bothers him. Again, I don't know, right? I don't know.
Today's your lucky day. Hayden, come out.
Yeah,
It's like Maury.
We'd like to welcome.
Yeah, scoot over.
Yeah. No, it's all good. Like I know
No,
that we
I
can
know.
talk it out and it's all
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And, like no problem. It's been years. And
Yeah.
it's all like all cool. But I think like at that time, that's what I had in my mind, right? That's the only thing that would maybe add up. Right? Maybe he was just doing it accidentally, right? Back of his head, you know. But again, whatever. It is what it is.
Everybody's got that.
My dad paid the price for it. He got kicked out for eight
Did
weekends.
the crime, did the time, baby.
Yeah, literally, he did the crime, did the time, and you know he felt bad. You know he felt bad for it. He told me that I've talked to him about
But he'd
it.
do it again.
Give him a half water bottle.
That's kind of what I've talked to him. He's like, I don't care. He's like, this might be fucked up, but I'll say it anyways because you know my dad's cool. He says that he was lucky that it was with half. It was half and it wasn't filled up. But no, we say that screwing around.
Of
you
course.
know, he knows that it wasn't the right reaction. That's not the way to take things and to do things. He knows that. You know, he was sorry because of the way that people then like
reflected on
me, and then like they would, you know, people would even now like people still say stuff. They're like, oh, you know, like, oh, you're coming back to racing, like. Be careful with, you know, who you're bringing or something like that. I'm like, dude, screw you. Like,
you're a bad boy.
dude,
The
yeah,
Miami
like
Mafia
screw
is
you. Like,
coming up.
but honestly, dude, I don't care, right? Like, I don't care about like, it was, you know,
It's a long time ago.
yeah, I don't care. And
And to be fair, I mean, you know, I don't know. Supercross guys talk about it all the time, but like racing gets so polished sometimes that it's like you need a little bit of a
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
something to talk
exactly. And
about,
luckily,
you know?
no one got harmed, right?
Yeah.
It was to the helmet. It was
Yeah.
closed. It was a little water
Yeah.
bottle. It's all good. No
Yeah.
harm was
Yeah.
done. Like, so
And
it's all
It's
good.
unfortunate
And
that
I'm-
you're you know at your peril a little bit,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I
either
mean,
way.
especially though, you got to think like your parents or even your dad, like going through what they went through. Like this is your chance.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Like
exactly.
Like nobody knows what he went through. The
Exactly.
financial stress.
No, and
they
that's-
just look at
and I think that
you're on a factory team and you're doing
Yeah.
factory. You're on the best team and you're there, and it's like,
And I think that
no one really knows
that reaction I think showed a lot of what he went through, right? Like someone that's chilling with like $1 million in the bank account doesn't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
be real.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Still
if you're,
banking on that bonus money.
yeah,
a little bit.
yeah, no, like someone who's doing that is because they've been through it, and even to
It's
this day,
your
no
life.
one knows what they've been through,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
And so that's pretty much, you know, that's natural, right? And it's again, we're Argentinian, we've got that blood. That's the way we are. We're
Yeah.
passionate people, so it's a reaction. And what's funny, I'll be honest with you though, like you know, talking about how that like backlash on me was afterwards, it wasn't even that bad though.
Yeah.
Like it was almost funny to see that I actually had supporters for that. Like,
Yeah.
Well, you got Road Racing World, so
Yeah,
nothing went
yeah,
out.
yeah,
Nothing went
yeah.
out. They buried that.
They would have gone full gas. Yeah, my dad got some shit from the oranges too.
Yeah. Oh, I
so
bet.
he got it left and right,
Yeah.
but it's okay, you know.
But no, that's how it works. You always need, you know, there's no fans made out of everyone being a good guy.
Yeah, exactly,
know,
exactly.
That's
So,
exactly what they talk about in
no,
Supercross.
It's
you know?
all good. We're
Yeah,
we're
for
good.
sure.
We're good. We can laugh about it now.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
I'm
for
glad
sure,
we were able
for
to
sure. Yeah.
kind of bring it up and talk it out.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Just no water bottles for
Yeah.
for Mr.
this
King.
No, no, we're good.
Plastic only.
Yeah, he's chilling, dude. He's taking a huge chill pill after that.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
yeah. Now, obviously, you know, you won the championship. At what point did you feel like you were kind of, I don't know, on the chopping block to go to Moto2 again? Like, as far as like, when did you start feeling kind of some pressure? Like, okay, if I do well here, if I wrap up the championship,
So halfway through the season in 21, the talks to go into Moto2 were starting to get serious. That's when American Racing reached out and we were having talks. Well, my manager was running American Racing Team, right? So that's where I had my foot stepped in to Moto2
Because
scene
he was
because he was my
that's
manager.
Eaton?
Yeah.
Is that Eaton?
Yes, exactly. So he was my manager and he was running American Racing Team. So
But he doesn't own the team?
Yeah.
He does.
He does.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, he does. So
it was
when
kind of a shirt thing, really, at that point.
yeah, so obviously I had to do good, and based on that, I was going up towards wrapping the championship. That's what it was looking towards. But it's still, you know, the talks halfway through the season, is when it got pretty serious. And then I was like, yeah, like that's what we're going towards. That's what we're working towards. And then it was like he didn't want to do anything until I wrapped up the championship, which
Fair play.
yeah, I think makes sense. I also didn't want to blow up my head, right? I'm like, hey, like I want to focus on my championship. I want to do X, Y, and Z. And then that's literally exactly how it was. Like I won the championship at Jersey, and like 2 days later, I signed the contract.
Now, when was he your manager? When did that start?
2019 wild card.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he became your manager
So
now.
when I did the wild card, I finished that weekend, and then like a week later, we ended up signing that management deal. And honestly, that was 100% because we felt like that was our way in, right?
Way
Like
back
that
to
was
Europe.
yeah, that was our way back to Europe. He obviously expressed that that's what he wanted to do with me. He obviously in 2019 he still wasn't like the owner because it was an American team. I don't know. He was still like half, I think.
Okay.
But come 2020, it was 100% like his
Now,
thing.
for people that don't know, like management here in America is weird because not a lot of people have them. There's a few top riders that have management. What was that like, kind of already having a deal, right, with M4, but having a manager that didn't really do the deal?
Yeah. So we had to clarify a lot of that stuff, but it ended up being really easy because pretty much when I signed that management deal, it was like, hey, I've got my stuff set in the US.
Yeah.
We're doing this to try and come back to Europe.
Okay.
And like once we talked about that, it was like, okay, cool. That was it.
Sweet.
So like even, I had a deal with Team Hammer for 19 and 20. And then 2021, I didn't have a contract for, which that's the year I won the championship. When I redid that contract, my manager didn't do that. My management didn't do that.
Okay.
That was all with us because it was with the same team.
Yeah.
It was pretty much the same deal, right? Everything was the same. We just
So that's pretty cool.
added
'cause-
it. So it made it a really easy. And I'm glad it was that way because if not, it would.
Then how sticky does it get when the team owner wants to sign you but is your manager, and how do you negotiate a deal with somebody who owns the team? I mean, in real estate, when do you call that both sides, right? Like we have to disclose. I mean, is that tough?
Yes.
Obviously, you want to go to Moto2, an opportunity's worth more than, I don't want to say any money, but it's worth, everything.
Before you answer that, I guess was he really doing anything management for you while you were in the US, or was it more or less just your way of kind of like signing on a preemptive Moto2 contract in your mind?
Brought me into Moto2 without me having to sign,
Yeah,
without me having to bring in any money, any sponsor, which, as crazy as that sounds, that's the way it has to be. That's the way it is right now,
Yep.
right? Because there's Moto3 riders that are decent. Well, everyone's decent, but you know what I mean? Like top guys, and they're still having to pay 200 grand, 250 grand a
It's
race,
crazy.
right? So that was my way of getting in there without having to bring in money, straight up. That was my way of getting in. He wanted to, he wanted to get me in there, and obviously I showed enough by winning the championship and doing what I did. But that was really honestly the main thing, like
Getting the year
yeah.
expenses, it was that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
having a manager.
No, I mean I had a small salary from Moto2.
Oh, okay.
So, was,
Yeah.
something to help pay the bills. Then, the rest was like me getting my own like kind of personal sponsors, and that helped me going, but that was like on me.
Now, for people, sorry to jump in because this is interesting. We haven't really talked about this, but like Moto2, like helmet deals, leather deals, things of that nature, it's a lot different than America. Like it's pretty big money when you're at the top. Were you able to get some of those deals?
No,
Okay.
because American team had team deals,
Oh.
so yeah.
Because I know those deals are pretty
They are.
easier to get once you're in the World Championship.
Yeah.
There's kind of a set rate.
I finished. I won the championship with RST here in 21, and then they were like, "Hey, you're going to Moto2. Like, we want to pay you X." It was a good little bit of money, but it was impossible because I had a team deal.
Okay.
So, but obviously, I had
got it.
what could I do?
Yeah,
right?
nothing.
They were putting me in Moto2, so I couldn't do anything about it. So yeah, helmet deal, suit deal, like everything that was all on the team. I just had to show up. I had a couple personal sponsors that that were the ones like really helping me, keep moving forward, because if not, it would have been super tough. Like what I was getting from the team itself was nowhere near enough to even pay the bills for the season.
Right. Yeah.
Because again, I was having to go overseas.
Of course.
When I go overseas, I have to train.
Yeah.
To train, I need a dirt bike. I need everything. You need everything to train.
Bicycle.
Yeah.
I mean,
bicycle.
were you in Andorra or Barcelona?
I was in Barcelona.
Okay.
I wasn't making enough money to live in Andorra.
No, yeah. I just wondering because it's like trials bike, this, that.
Yeah.
Like
no,
they've
but
got
still,
everything.
I have trials bike. I
Yeah.
had to get all that stuff. But
Yeah.
man, it adds up, right?
Yep.
And then like I was working with the trainer that is legit trainer, because he's with GP guys. We're working with Vinales and all these dudes. But he has a price.
Of course.
Right? And it's like he helped me out a lot, honestly, a lot. And I have a great relationship with him, and I'm super grateful for him. But there's still a price tag to that, and that was me paying the price for trying to become the best rider I can, and I had to be around the best people possible, right?
Yep.
But that doesn't mean it was easy. It was expensive, right? So I had to pull left and right as much as I could to just kind of cover it, But that's what made it a little bit difficult as well, is that I felt like the money I was able to make being here with Suzuki, I went from making enough to be okay and then save up some money to try and invest some money, which I think was a smart way to go about it, to then going to Moto2 and being like, oh shit, we're barely making it end of the year.
Yeah.
So that was a big change, but it's okay. I was in Moto2.
Yeah, it's a risk to take, right?
It was in Moto2.
You got it. You got to go all in.
I got there. Yeah, I was in
Yeah.
Moto2.
I know
Now,
exactly what you're talking about.
Was you get those personal deals because you had a manager? Was your manager taking? Because that's usually people don't realize, but managers are taking a cut. That's how they make their money. Was that part of that too? Like your deal with them?
No, because these were personal sponsors that I already had for a few years, like from when I was in Team Hammer, and I was arranging that. He wasn't arranging that. So it's like if he would bring something, then yeah, he would take. But that's not the deal we had.
And was he like actively out there selling you? Because obviously it's got to be pretty hard to be managing riders and managing a team, because you're trying to sell sponsors for the team, but how do you manage a rider?
Yeah, no, like there wasn't, didn't bring any like big personal sponsor, like helmet, like big logo or anything. No, but again, I think it's for that reason. Just like had a lot on the plate already.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was there was a slight separation there with that.
Yeah, I think people think like, oh, he's got a manager. It's like,
It's guaranteed.
Yeah,
Oh, he's just going to bring him, these endorsement deals, $100,000s of dollars, and it just doesn't work like that.
Nope.
A lot of the time it's more hassle.
Especially Moto2, man. It's so gnarly.
You've always been, I think, one of the other fairly good guys in the U.S. of getting personal sponsors and doing deals like that. Like you always have some unique stuff.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Obviously, it's not like you went to high school and took marketing classes or college.
I just talk a lot. I talk a lot. I don't know how to say it without sounding like without sounding cocky, but I think it's almost like a little gift, right? That I'm able to speak well and it just kind of comes to me, I guess.
You're comfortable.
Yeah. I'm just comfortable, and obviously I've learned a lot, right? I'm still learning, right? I'm not saying like I haven't taken any marketing things. I haven't taken how to talk in front. No, but I think it just comes quite well. But I already started from a young age at, talking a lot in front of the camera. My parents always pushed me a lot to like talk and try to talk well and try to talk like this and like that. And they always pushed me a lot towards that. And so I was always just very comfortable. And I think that does a lot, right? Like one, how you present yourself and how you talk, and then just kind of knowing what you're talking about after that, and that's just the knowledge that comes a little bit with time. But like, for example, when I was in Rookies Cup, Pole Position Travel was one of my sponsors, and I'm sure you probably even know Gordon, the owner of Pole Position, and what they do is they do like packages for race weekends, and they were helping me out with hotels on the race weekends in Rookies Cup. And actually, Pole Position Travel was my first real sponsor, by the way. And I was there, and every Friday of the Rookies Cup race weekends, he would have me come out and speak to all the guests. And so, I'm talking in front of like 50 people, 60 people. And, I was like, 13, 14, 15 years old and having to talk in front of all these people. And I actually got another one of my big, just completely on the side supporters that to this day helps me out a lot. is someone I got from one of those days that I was just talking on the microphone, just talking about who I am. So I think it's just that level of, just knowing how to talk, and maybe I say some things that just convince people to make a bad decision of helping me out. So it's good.
Yeah, no, it is. I think it's a lot of networking and
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's behind us. Sorry if you guys can hear this, but
Oh,
we've
it's
got
like right out there.
Yeah, guy next
You need
door.
thicker walls, man.
T. Wyman be
Yeah.
next to us.
Thicker RV.
Upgrade the RV. No, but I do think there's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of missed opportunity, honestly, in the U.S. Obviously, like you're in Miami, which is, I think, culturally like a little bit of a hub, right? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like it feels like there's certain pockets, like being from New England, like Loudon, New Hampshire, like there's like that whole community where it's like they like foster people and want to support them. Miami, I feel like, is a lot of the same.
Yeah.
In New York, we don't really have that because it's like there's nobody from New York. Or like
You
California.
guys are it.
Yeah, it's it.
Yeah.
Me and PJ really. But I think PJ had a little bit of that from flat track because flat track's a lot more grassroots. Nonetheless,
Right.
do you feel like that's also kind of part of it? Just having like one because you have a different passport and you speak Spanish, so you kind of connect with that community. Has that helped you too?
Yeah, 100%. I think you need there's a lot of factors that add in to everything, right? And then this is definitely one of those. Like even when I was overseas, my sponsors are all from around here, well, here as in Florida, like my hometown. One of my big sponsors now, apart from OnlyFans, is Palm Beach Police and Fire Foundation, right? And okay, it's not Miami, but it's just up north, right? It's an hour. And, I got that because they're also, they've been around racing. They love racing. They sponsor Team Hammer. They sponsored the Daytona 200 a bunch of times. So they're in the industry, but it's also because I'm a local guy and I just met them because of when I was racing, and I just spoke with them and, kind of moving around. And dude, you have to be there and you have to move. And it's, obviously it would be much nicer if it was a lot easier to get sponsors right now, to get that support, but it's not easy, right? Like sometimes, we have some big names like OnlyFans, right? That's popping up right now, and they're doing a big effort. And, I think I got kind of lucky in that sense too, that they were a team sponsor over in Moto2 when I was there. So I met them, but probably if I was not a good person and didn't know how to talk, I wouldn't have had that deal, right? Because the only reason I got that deal is because I met the people, I was cool with them, I was talking to them,
Yeah,
and
built a relationship.
they're interested into doing something. It's that relationship building, and that's everything.
And it's always not just solely based on results. Like the results always help, but
Yeah.
you have people here that are winning championships that don't have helmet deals.
Yep.
And stuff like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think it's
They don't
massive.
box up.
Like,
Yeah.
Not, whatever. You didn't have the most stellar last year, and
Yeah.
you were able to still get
Yeah.
OnlyFans on board for your rookie season.
Correct.
Arguably, on paper, you wouldn't say you would be a
Yeah.
podium guy right out of the gate.
Yeah, and
So,
not
like,
knowing like at all where you would be, right? Like hopefully podium, hopefully winning, but you
Yeah,
have no idea. Like
exactly.
could be fucking 10th.
So
right?
to do a team deal,
Yeah.
that's got to go very,
Yeah.
relationship speak.
Yeah.
It's
And
a lot.
relationship speaks, but it's also where the industry is at right now. Like look how much social media is doing, right? Like that is so much. I mean, podcasts,
everything.
right?
Yeah.
Talking,
Yeah.
content, right? It's everything right now, and it's like, it's almost something that like I still struggle with. I mean, now I have to not struggle with it because it's a big part of the deals I have is content. It's doing the videos, doing the vlogs, doing the race weekends, doing the posts and all that. And it's difficult because I don't really, it's not my thing. It's not my style. I didn't really grow up doing that and liking it so much, but it's the reality we live in. Like that right now, content is everything. People,
If you want to make money.
not to be happy, but
Yeah.
to make money.
Yeah.
And so it's the sponsors are revolving around that.
And
it's
like
just a
for
reality.
like an OnlyFans deal, like is there? I mean, obviously we don't have to go too deep into it, but like, is it like an impression base? Like, do you have to have a view count? Is there any sort of anything? Like, do they care that? Obviously, you got to have them on your helmet, but do they really even care about that? Is it more about how much content you are producing for the channel?
Yeah, so it's more about content. Luckily, it's not about numbers. I feel like that would be really stressful, because you could have one video that blows up, but then you have one that doesn't do well at all. Like you
can't control the algorithm. Or
exactly.
anything.
You
It's
know how
tough.
that is. So I think that would be stressful, but it's none of that. It's more about the numbers of what you're putting out, right?
Okay.
So like you're gonna see my posts, right? I've got posts coming in, like how many times I say the word, right? They don't count that, but it's just it's more about that. Like, how many times do I say it? How many times do I put it out there? I think really them seeing OnlyFans on my helmet on the front straightaway here is like, maybe it's not that big of a deal. But the fact that then it's on TV, and then every video I do, I publish it, and then I post and I tag them, and it just moves around. That's really what they're looking for, at least when I spoke to them. You know what I mean? So it's been interesting. It's been interesting because obviously, we know what they're known for and what everyone's opinion is with it. But at the end of the day, like what I tell everyone is, there's only so many companies supporting our sport right now. So like we need to be grateful for that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like
it's always like the old dudes, old white dudes that are like,
yeah,
OnlyFans is a porn site.
Yeah. So it's like
one, it's not just that, but it's also like, bro, come on, like you've never been on Pornhub?
yeah. So
it's
like,
but like, bro, have you not been on Instagram lately?
Yeah, have you not been on the internet?
It's like everywhere.
The amount of stuff you see, but and then like one of their comments was oh, like what a shame that you have to go towards something like porn related for you to like to pay your bills. I'm like, bro, you want to pay my bills?
Right.
Right. Like I'm living off of this. Like they're helping me like continue forward in life, literally.
Yeah.
So
and
it's
I believe they're trying to make a shift.
Yeah, no,
like
dude,
action sports.
They're putting so much into everything, right? Fighters, motorsports, everything. So it's going big. I mean, they clearly, yes, they're able to do it because of why they grew. Okay,
yeah,
great.
But everybody starts somewhere.
Everybody starts somewhere, and they.
Well, it all comes back to money anyway, right? The only reason people do anything on OnlyFans is for money.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's what
everyone's there for.
So I'm just, I'm super grateful that we got such a big company putting in all of this for us to, into the sport, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. I hope that having a company like OnlyFans, such a big company worldwide right now, I hope it motivates more, maybe smaller, bigger, whatever it may be, other companies to want to come on board and be like,
validation. I mean, having you and Josh, having a brand like that. It's like when I go to a brand and go, oh, well, look, OnlyFans is it's one of the biggest brands in the world, arguably right now. They're spending money here. Like you should too.
Exactly.
It's like that when Monster was in, and now Mission. I mean, now you have demographics that are so far apart from each other that you can go to different demographics.
It lets you open up.
Yeah, and you can open up. But so like going back to the Moto2 thing, you start your first season, you've done one debut ride, and now you're starting your first season. What's that like, going through the whole testing process and really understanding, like, hey, you're a Moto2 guy now. Like, you're in the World Championship. It's got to be pretty cool. It's a lot different than just doing a debut, wild card.
Oh, yeah, no. There's nothing like
you get to do the pictures, the videos, like
exactly.
You're on,
dude. I remember my Qatar is when they do the class picture, and dude, I couldn't stop cheesing that day. I still remember, man, my cheeks still hurt from that day. I was cheesing so hard because that class picture, right? You just like with everybody, and it's that's the one picture you see like growing up, right? When you're 5 years old, you just see the class picture, and I didn't have one in my room, but almost like I saw that picture so much every year. The class picture,
World Champions next year.
Yep. And so for me, like when I was really there at Qatar with my helmet, with my suit, and like just there lining up, I'm actually like getting this picture taken of me right now. That's wild.
Yeah, it's surreal,
like
sure.
Did you ever get a feeling like you made it? Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, my post that day when I got that picture is I made it.
That's so cool.
Right? Because like regardless of what anybody says of anything, like my family and I made it, and we got nothing gifted to us. Like that's it, right? Like, yeah, did timing come to help? Did we do the right thing? Did we work? Yes, but everything lined up because we put it all in there. And nothing was gifted. Everything was just was there because I think because we deserved it, And getting to Moto2 is not a small feat, right? It's not a small thing. So when I was there, there was that sensation of like, oh my God, man, I'm here. I made it. It's unbelievable, and it's just like I still get like a crazy feeling inside me even just thinking about it now, which is amazing.
Well, I hate to pull you from the clouds, but how hard did anybody or anything prepare you for how hard it was? Because you can only we talk about it. We talk about how hard it is to get to under a second. Like if you get under a second, that's like you've won your first massive battle in Moto2.
Yeah.
And then learning the tracks and the food. And
so the thing is we're racers, right? We always want to do better. We always want to be more upfront. I obviously didn't achieve the results I wanted to achieve, but it's almost like calming in a way, just knowing that it was probably more of a timing thing, you know, that I it's not like I achieved it because I can't, right? Unlike a lot of people, what they say, of course. But for me, let's say like I realistically got a season and a half, right? Because, the situation that happened with the team halfway through last year. And so realistically, I got a season and a half. If you look at any rider, apart from like Acosta, a season and a half is not enough.
No, it's like 4 years, 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Like look at the guys, look at Joe. He's doing amazing right now, right? Killing it. But how many years has he been in Moto2, right? And it's not because he didn't have that talent beginning, right? It's just because it takes so much time. It's so difficult.
But what takes so much time?
Getting up front, understanding,
learning like the tracks,
the detail. It's just Moto2 is something about details. It's factors. It's more than one thing. It's not, to me, it's not one thing. It's not just having the bike set up. It's not just having the right crew chief. It's not just having the right feeling in the team. It's not just knowing the track. It's not just having the raw talent. It's having the right mentality. It's all of those things, right? So when you go in, like I went in first season after racing 3 years on a super sport Suzuki, which has nothing to do with the super sport bike, learning all those tracks overseas with those guys, there's too many factors, right? And so I'm still, there's a lot to talk about, but in my two Moto2 seasons, there's the side of me that says, damn, I definitely wish I could have done more, wish I could have done better. Can always say that, always wish. But I'm also calm in the sense of I know how much I got out of it. I know that I got there. And I also know that I'm quite proud of even what I was able to achieve last year. That last year was a gnarly year for me in all the senses, like mentally, physically, situation with the team. I got called up by forward. I had the arm situation. I did an amazing result with that bike that no one did. Like there's little highlights that to me is like, that's worth everything, And so, but, kind of looping it back to what you said though, it's just, there's so many factors, man.
Joe kind of said that when we talked with him that the Moto2 bike specifically, there's like if you're in this box, right? Like he puts it, and you can continually doing, like lap times are easy in that box, but like the wall is so massive. So you're either in that box at the front of the grid or in the back of the grid, but it's very difficult to get through that wall. Did you kind of have the same feeling of like, did you hit a wall every weekend and was it extremely hard to break through? Or were you always every session getting better? Like how does...
There was definitely walls, and a big part of it was the first year was because of the crashes. Like I'm not a huge crasher, but I was a crasher on the Moto2. Like, but not even that. Like it's not like I crashed a shit ton because there's guys that crash
every weekend
so much.
Was it more front end or high sides?
That's the problem is I had both, right?
So you just couldn't
and it was
really
out of nowhere, and I just didn't understand why, right? And so to me that was the wall, like not understanding like why, and then it's like, my first year when I had that, then my team, had some of my crew, some of my guys were like, yo, you need to take take a step back, right? Try to, ride within your limits and not crash and build it back. So then I tried to do that. And then I found myself 3 weekends later, I'm not pushing the bike.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying not to crash because I'm scared to crash. And if you don't push, in general, if you don't push, it's bad, right? Yeah. You're not going to be up front. But if you don't push a Moto2 bike, you don't understand it. Because it's, again, going back to our question earlier, it's so stiff that if you don't understand, if you don't push that stiff chassis, you don't get the feedback, you don't understand it, you're nowhere. And that was me for like half of the first year.
Wow.
Just to understand that. And then when it clicked, when I found it, I'm like, oh man, I'm in a comfort zone. I'm not pushing this because I had the people around me saying to me, dude, don't worry, like don't crash, be careful. That's the wrong mentality.
Yeah.
And I unfortunately I got sucked into that. I got sucked into that. And again, that's one of those things that when I talk about factors, right? Like that's one of those factors that the people around you matter, right? The way that they help you get in a certain direction, right? And I think that was a little bit of the case the first year that we just kind of went in the wrong direction, and I got sucked into the wrong direction, and it made it difficult to understand anything. I think I just kind of lost time there, lost valuable time.
For people that don't know, were you by yourself or you had your girlfriend?
I had my girlfriend for pretty much the whole year. The first year, she was kind of still traveling back and forth.
But this is the first time that you're technically racing without your father.
Yeah. And yeah.
Was that hard?
Yeah, it was a big change. It was a big change, just my living situation. Like, it was my first time living by myself. I had roommates, but it was still like I was without my family, without my friends. You know, my girlfriend luckily was traveling, coming back, but it was still like we'd go, a month without seeing each other, which was kind of like, damn, like all that time, again, being how I am, you saw, like, very family guy, everything. And so it was a big change, but it didn't scare me. It didn't affect me all that wildly. I realized more of it when I finished my Moto2, or at least up till now, my Moto2 career, end of last year. Once I knew I was packing the bags and coming back when I signed with Superbike, I'm like, oh man, like, I'm ready to go back home.
I need this.
I need
a little reset.
I need to be back with the family. I need to be back with my friends. I need to be back at home,
Yeah.
And again, I do it all over again. Like, if you tell me pack bags and go, like, okay, cool, no problem. Doesn't scare me. But it doesn't mean that it didn't affect, doesn't mean that it wasn't there. The sensation, the feelings were still there. Still a big change.
What about, obviously you had the whole arm deal last year. There was kind of a lot of mixed feedback on what really happened with that whole thing. Can you talk us through that? Like, what actually really went down?
Yeah, it was it was a crazy time. Probably the craziest of my career so far. Well, maybe no, for sure. Pretty much, long story short, I got arm pump surgery end of my first season in Moto2, so end of 22. Got arm pump surgery, just the normal. I go through off season, get ready for last year for my 23 season.
For you, did you get arm pump at all before Moto2?
Oh yeah. Oh, before Moto2?
Yeah.
Very little bit, but it was gnarly in Moto2.
Why do you think that? Just like how much more physical it is?
Clearly, there's something with the bikes, because you look at now how many riders got arm pump. I think like 9 riders got arm pump surgery after Qatar. After Qatar this year,
yeah.
I think
ridiculous.
Fabio just went back and got more arm pump surgery.
There you go. Yeah, it's a lot, right? So clearly there's something with the bikes, with just the physical side of it, with what you have to do. The tracks as well. The combo is ridiculous.
Are the tracks more physical, you would say, than the U.S.? Like being more like sweepy and stuff?
Some of them. I mean, Atlanta is very physical.
Yeah.
But nah, I'd say it's relative. Like, just bike to track.
I think you could like push the bikes harder, or they're just like, or is everybody just, or is there just more people on the limit, so you have to be on the limit for longer?
I think you can just push that bike harder because it's so stiff, Because here, Gagne and Bobier and then you guys up front, it's not like you guys aren't pushing hard with what you have.
Yeah.
We're all on the limit, but the bike has its limit too. We're trying to find that limit. And I think even if we might not be at 100% the limit of the bike because we can always go faster, but even that 90%, I think the 90% on a production bike is not 90% on the Moto2 bike with how you're working on it. So I think that has a big side of the physical with the arm pump. But I got normal arm pump surgery, went through preseason, off-season training, and I felt good at first, normal, right? You'd expect it after getting arm pump surgery. And then as I was getting towards the beginning of the season, I already started to feel that I wasn't all that great. Like, I started to kind of get some arm pump again, and but I almost didn't want to believe it, right? Because I'm like, dude, like, there's no way. Like, there's no way. I just got the surgery 3 months ago. There's no way. So I didn't really believe it, didn't really pay too much attention to it. Started the season, and it was like, had a tight suit one weekend. I'm like, it's got to be the suit while I'm getting arm pump. Fixed the suit, and then still kind of had it bad. And then we had like Portugal, Coda, and then I think Jerez or Le Mans or some shit like that. We had some like mix. And then at 1 or 2 tracks, it wasn't so bad. I was fine. Coda was horrible, like fucking horrible. My arm fell asleep. Almost like I feel like I could have fought for the points, and I couldn't because the last 5 laps I couldn't hold on to the bike. So there already that weekend, I'm like, dude. But then, for example, that race at Coda last year, my airbag went off on the warm up lap. So then I'm like, oh, maybe I just got arm pumped because my airbag went off and it was like kind of pushing on me. So, I was like, it was almost like there was always an excuse as to why it wasn't my actual arm until I got to Le Mans. Assen. I got to Assen and it was like, dude, that was horrible. Horrible. I couldn't even finish FP1. It was so bad. I tried again in FP2. It was bad. FP3 was bad. I was going through the whole weekend and my arm was just not having it. I couldn't do it no matter what I did, no matter what I was taking, what I was doing, how much I was stretching, how much therapy, nothing. I tried to do the race. I go 15, halfway through, 12, 15 laps, and I could not feel my arm. I'm like, I'm going to kill myself. I pit in and I tell my team, guys, I'm sorry. Like, this is bad. I need to go to the doctor. I go straight to medical there at the track and tell them what's happening. They do ultrasound and they look at me and they're like, dude, you're fucked. Like that, but in Spanish, like that. I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, we've never seen so much scar tissue in an arm. And they're like, when'd you get the surgery? I'm like, 6 months ago at that point. I'm like, dude, this is ridiculous. Like, you need to open back up and you need to do something. And they're like, but if you got this much scar tissue in this amount of time, we expect that you're just gonna get the same problem again, right? Like within 3 months again. And I'm like, the world fell on me, man, because that was pretty much them telling me like, oh, like your arm, we don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know how to fix your arm. Like you're screwed. We don't know how to fix it. That's pretty much what they told me. And dude, like it fell, because from that moment to like, it was a full week of me going to doctor's office, me going to talking to surgeons, from Barcelona to Madrid, talking to different people. And then I finally found MotoGP recommended me to one of their surgeons. And this was the only surgeon that had a plan, right? He said, hey, I can't guarantee that you're not going to have scar tissue growth again right away. Can't guarantee it, but I can give you 90% assurance that it's not going to come back. So I'm like, okay, whatever. It is what it is, right? They opened up my arm again. They took out a piece of scar tissue this big, like fucking this big, this thick. So no joke, before, like now you touch it and it's muscle, right? It's soft. Before, like right next to here, you touch it here and it was like touching this. Like no joke, it was like touching. Is it hard for you too?
No, it's all right.
Okay. It was like touching I'm not even joking, like a piece of rod, like a rod, like metal. It was hard. And I didn't know what it was. I thought it was like a tendon or something, right? I'm dumb. I had no idea. Turns out that was a scar tissue. It grew back like this hard, this big, just a huge piece of scar tissue completely down, and it just closed up. And that's why the arm pump was worse than it was before.
And did they say that was because like the doctor that did it messed
Nope.
something up, or just genetics?
Genetics. My body just, I keloid easily. That's the way my body responds. It just keloids very, very easily. And when you keloid on the outside, you keloid on the inside, and that's just your body saying, hey, I want to close up. Like pretty much my body my body was like, when you arm pump surgery is you open up the fascia inside. And when you open up the fascia, usually the body's like, okay, whatever, it's open, like let the muscle breathe. My body was like, yo, you open up the fascia, I want to close that up because that, I don't want to have that open. So my body closed it up, and huge piece of scar tissue. Anyways, they went in, they took it out, closed up my arm again. Within all this, I did a couple sessions of radiotherapy on the arm because that was the only way that they can guarantee that the cells weren't going to rush in and try to close everything. Radiotherapy kind of kills everything, right? That's one of the things that they use for cancer, to kill cells. Yeah. So they literally, like, actually I have like little pieces of ink that's what they used for the machine, the radiotherapy machine. So I had to do that. I was 3 weeks on like certain pills to try not to have like so much cell growth on it. So it was crazy. I had to wear like a arm, like the wrist, the wrist brace to not move, like to not have my wrist, like my muscle moving, just to like keep everything still. And so I was like that for 6 weeks. And what happened within there, because the question kind of then obviously leads into what happened during the season, because I got the surgery, everything was fine. 6 weeks goes of me trying to heal up, like I was just kind of not doing much, couldn't do much. And then the day I got the green light from the surgeon to be able to start training again on the bike. No, sorry. I got the green light from the doctor. I started doing some physical therapy for 5 days. Green light to go and ride a bike. I go and ride, and it feels perfect, beautiful. That same day, I get 3 messages from random people saying, hey, what's this rumor about you getting replaced on the bike?
But at the time, they must have replaced you per round, right? Or was it summer break or something?
So that's the thing, is it was summer break, and it was exactly a month, and I was out for a month.
Okay.
So it was...
So they're probably working on a backup plan anyways.
They were working on a backup plan, and it was just the timing was strange, though, right? Because I was out for a month, and they never brought up anything. And then the week before I was supposed to race, the day that I finally tried it and it finally feels good and I'm ready to go, boom, there's a rumor that went out that I got replaced. The timing sucked, right? The timing sucked, and obviously then I ended up talking to him, and pretty much, long story short, it just kind of everything blew up there, like there was clearly a misunderstanding between me and the owners of the team. They thought I wasn't ready to go. I thought I was ready to go. They wanted to swap me out. I didn't want to get swapped out because it's my bike. And there was just
there was no like plan of you riding the next year if you stayed waiting.
So that's the other thing, is there was no plan for next year.
Okay, so you was just done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How does it work in Moto2, like with World Championship with points, right? Because don't the teams get like a certain amount of money from Dorna per point? Is that how that works?
I think it's only for MotoGP, and the
okay.
top 10 teams get like 2 million euros.
So it's not like they we're trying to get somebody in to get some more points for the year.
No, and so that's the thing, right? Is I understand if you're trying to replace me for me to heal up for a race, a round or two.
Yeah.
I get that. That wasn't their plan, right?
Okay.
And so that's where the big clash happened, right? Because I got called up and it's like, hey, you're getting replaced. Okay, for how long? Oh, until flyaways. The flyaways was 2 months later, right? So it's like,
oh, so there was a plan to bring you back for the flyaways.
yeah, that was the talk, right? But it was, everything was too in the air, and it was. It just didn't
be.
No. I saw where it was going towards, and we got a lot of clash, and dude, it blew up in a bad way, definitely. Like I don't like how it went. I don't like how it happened. I don't like the things that happened even after that. Like me going and speaking to them in person, and it was just not a good time, honestly. Like super bad time, in a bunch of different ways. Like I ended up without a ride. I was without a ride, right?
Yeah.
I was without a ride.
Halfway through the year.
Yep.
Halfway through the year, I was without a ride. I had this surgery that I was just healing back from, and
you didn't even get a shot.
And again, I had nothing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I felt like I did not get the shot, because I felt like the second year was the year I was going to start showing something.
Yep.
And I got my first 2 Q2 appearances, which, a lot of people don't know what Q2 is, but man, it is gnarly to get into Q2.
Yeah.
Super gnarly to get in Q2. And I finally got into Q2 2 times, like good, like in the dry, like straight into it, top 14, like let's go, feeling good. And then right the next weekend after is when I got this, and I was out. So I'm like, that hurt a lot, because I'm like, I feel like I didn't get that. And then, but look how things played out. Then I was out for a handful of races. The forward team, Italian team, with their own bike, their own chassis, one of their guys got hurt. They knew about my situation. They called me up. They're like, hey, do you want to ride? I did a test with them at the first Pirelli test. I was there with them with the bike. It went well. They liked me. They called me up, and then I did Misano, which was amazing, like just to finally be back racing after like 6 weekends out. And then, dude, I go to India GP the next weekend, and I got 15th first point for the team in like 2 years. And that to me was like, dude, that was amazing, right? That was, to me, I think that was still to this day my highlight of Moto2, my short little Moto2 career up to now, right? Because it was a bike that a bunch of good guys have ridden, like good, legit guys have ridden that bike. No one had been able to do anything whatsoever. I had all that shit happen to me, right? Getting kicked, what happened with the team, having no ride, my arm surgery, people obviously doubting me, like not knowing what was really happening, what was going on. And then boom, I get on that bike, which is, again, like, not to talk shit, but it's, the reality, like, it's not the best team, right?
Yeah.
They're on the bottom side, their own chassis, the bike is rough. And then I show up and I do a proper dry race P15, like fighting with, I fought for P14 until the last lap with Albert Arenas.
Wow.
Yeah.
Who
That's crazy.
look where he's at now, so on that bike, right? And there was, again, it was proper, like not it's not like 20 guys crashed, like there was two big groups behind me. And
You were in it.
I was in it. So
That's
that to me was like, man, it felt so amazing. And for me to finish that race and to go into that big group of the forward guys, and like there were Italians, right? The Passion, they were revving, because again, their first point in like almost 2 years. Wow. And just me, my second time on the bike. So that was amazing. That was huge. And I'm really happy that happened, because that was almost like my breather for the year, because I had so much happen the 2-3 months prior to that I'm like, dude, I needed this.
Yeah.
And even the response to the paddock was amazing, dude.
Yeah.
Like
Everybody wanted it.
Dude, people were coming up to me and they're like, dude, amazing. Like they were, and I'm just like, dude, I needed that.
Yeah.
Right. Because it was a rough go at it.
So yeah, I was asking, how does that work? Your manager obviously is the team owner, right? So you have that relationship that's a little bit tattered at that point when they more or less clip you halfway through the year. How do you even like negotiate the forward deal when that comes up? Obviously, you think, okay, I have a manager. Manager's going to help me to get a ride since I lost my ride, but at the same time, your manager's the one who forced you to lose your ride. How do you navigate that? Like, what does that look like?
Well, at that time, we weren't working together anymore. Like when
prior to that even happening,
when the team thing happened, the managing thing happened.
Yeah, of course.
Like it was together, So yeah, that's what was crazy, is adding to the fact that, I was halfway through the season, arm thing happened, everything happening, off the team, no ride, and also no manager. So I'm just sitting there like, well, I got to figure it out for myself.
Yep.
And so I literally I went to the next 2 race weekends, and I was just going around, like just talking, just knocking, like, hey, I'm available. Like 100%. Hey, I'm here. I'm good.
Yep.
I'm ready. Good to go. And I think that's what got me that forward ride. I mean, they knew I was there. They knew I was ready to go, and they trusted the fact that that I was fit, and obviously it proved right.
Does Dorna have any play in that? Did you know anybody at Dorna?
I was in the Dorna office
all the time,
a couple times.
Okay,
and just
telling them, hey,
I'm this happened, X, Y, and Z happened, and I'm by myself, and can you do anything? And then that's honestly where the political side of this industry comes in. I think a lot of everything that happened last year was political, honestly. And it showed also just the way that everything went on with me, going to Dorna afterwards and talking and trying to get some support. And it's like, dude, as much as they say, hey, we want Americans, hey, we care about Americans, we love the American flag, they did absolutely nothing for me.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, it's all about money, right? There's no American companies.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying when I say political. I mean by that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so that said everything to me, right? When I was in that position, that everything that happened, which again, I don't think I did anything ridiculous. Like if I would have been dead last every race weekend, if I would have been, a crazy guy that destroyed every bike and I was genuinely not of interest, maybe I'd get that. But I don't think I was. I wasn't that, right? The fact that I had all that, and I went to the office and spoke to them, and I spoke to high level people, And it was just like nothing. Just like, okay, yeah, we'll try and do something. That was it.
Yeah.
I left the office. They probably forgot about me, you know. So that, and I've talked about this. I've talked about this with a handful of people, but even Garrett, Gigi was one of them recently. I'm like, hey, like, do you get that same feeling? You know, like us, we're over there. You know, one of some of the only Americans out there. Everyone talking about, you know, American, you know, being a good flag to have, being a good, you know, good thing to be an American national, you know, nationality. I'm like, but do you actually get any support from that? Like, do you get any benefit? Well, we'll have the same answer. It's zero. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing. I would say that the only thing that did help me was obviously the fact that American Racing Team signed me up for it because I was an American that is doing well and I'm young, right? So in that sense, yes. But then, you know, when it came down to it, 2 years later, the situation I was in, Dorna had zero. Did zero. They did zero. So, and again, it's not. I'm not in a position here where I'm gonna be like, oh, you know, like they should have done something. No, I don't. You know, I'm not saying like don't hand me something, right? I'm not gonna be in that position where I expect anything to be handed to me. But neither were they helpful, right? They just were not helpful. They didn't do anything whatsoever. It was 100% forward after that, forward racing that came up to me and they're like, hey, we want you on our bike. That was it.
That's interesting.
What about like contractually? Obviously, you had a contract with the American team. Obviously, they have an injury clause or something in there that if they see you not to be fit, they can backtrack out of it. Is that kind of how that more or less got out of it, or you just, you know, they just throw up the contract halfway through the year kind of deal?
Yeah, it was. Man, that was part of it, but
Did you look at your contract?
yeah, no, of course. We've had too much contract talk. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Too much contract talk, to be honest. But one of the things was, yeah, there's an injury clause, right? But then how can you use the injury clause against me if when I got replaced, I was already fit by the doctors?
Right.
So what
Yeah.
injury clause is there, you know? So yeah, but man, so much there, but it ended up just being pretty much a
Okay.
Rip
So
it.
like they didn't pay you for the rest of the year, like that kind of thing?
yeah,
or?
correct, yeah. None of that. So I got properly.
Okay, you did.
No.
Oh, you
no,
got
no.
shafted.
I didn't. I did not get
Oh,
paid.
fuck.
No, I did not get paid. But pretty much the other side that is completely wild, right? That's the political side of motorcycle racing, GP paddock in general. If I just told you that, right, you say, oh wow, like American racing, wow, like crazy, like not even splitting American racing, wow, a team can do that. Yes, a team can do that in general. They can change a rider halfway through the season for no reason because Dorna lets them do that.
Yeah.
You know, Dorna and IRTA, right? They work together, right? IRTA is the International Racing Teams Association. I went to IRTA, asked them about my situation. Hey, is this normal? I'm fit, right? Is this normal? Can they do this? The reply was yes, they can swap you out. I was like, for no reason.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not dead last. I'm not breaking bikes. There's nothing in the contract that says that I can get my personal contract with team did not say that they can replace me because of that my results that I was doing because of my.
There's no performance clause.
There's nothing.
Hmm.
So no, there was one small one, but I was okay. Like I was within the.
Mm.
I wasn't dead last. I wasn't breaking bikes, and IRTA told me, yeah, they're allowed to swap you
All
out.
Dorna really cares about is the bike being on the grid. They don't care who's
Exactly.
on it. Right?
So when I heard that for the first time, which was again all within the same weekend, right? They told me, yeah, they can swap. A team can legally swap out one rider per year, no problem.
Only one?
Yeah, without there being a reason.
Oh,
You can
wow.
swap out another one if you have a reason, if you have like a clause, right? Performance
Wow,
clause.
so the IRTA allows one.
Yeah, for no reason, just like me.
That's
For no
yeah.
reason. For me, it was for no reason. There was no reason.
No, I understand. That's just crazy that there's
Yeah.
a rule of one.
Yeah.
So with all that happening to you, are you like an advocate for a riders union? I know that's like a big
Oh,
topic lately.
1,000%.
Yeah.
In fact, while that was happening, because I was kind of, I was being a bit like, at least on social media and like talking, I was trying to be a bit like public about what was happening, because obviously people had no idea, right? And people already kind of understood what was happening, more or less, right? That it was some weird thing going on. And as that was happening, there was a lot of talk of like the writers union. There was a lot of talk about that because at that same time frame, I forget what it was, but some other rider had some other issue, and it was just at the same time. So like, yeah, I'm all for it, man, because like there's no power. We have no power.
Yeah. It's really, really tough. I mean, I went through a similar situation, and I had to get legal involved, and I mean, I can't say anything about it for what, you know, just the legal reasons, but like, even though I went through and stuck and got it, won with my contract, fully blackballed from the series. Like, no other teams, just because I went legal, were like, what's the point of having a contract? I mean, it's just one side of things. I just, you know, timings, you know, whatever. But it is interesting how a contract you put in there is, like, what's the legal part if everyone else in the paddock's just going to blackball you anyway?
No, contracts have no weight right now. Like, look at how many Moto2, Moto3 riders got
WAS
screwed.
Group or somebody who's got massive amount of lawyers on staff.
Yep, ready to roll.
Yeah.
But no, in this case, like, the amount of Moto2, Moto3 riders that are just getting screwed left and right, it's insane. And it's because there's no weight. There's no weight to contracts. And the people that matter, Dorna and everything, they don't care.
This is always something I wondered, going kind of back to your surgery thing, but how does that work with insurance and whatnot when you're over there?
Oh yeah, that was the addition to the screwery, if that is even a word. Just my year being horrible was all out of pocket
For all your arm pump stuff.
Yeah, everything was.
Is it expensive over there? Because I know like over here
it was expensive because it was also a strange situation. Told you about the radiotherapy, and so imagine that for this surgery, for all the therapies with it, and for the traveling that I had to go to and from Madrid, stay in Madrid. I had to stay there for a week because they didn't let me move because of everything. I spent like 10 to 12 grand, like just for this alone.
Which in America would be like 100, but
yeah, but that's 12 grand that I had to pay right there. Like,
yeah,
it's not like here that you could be like, oh yeah, I'll pay it like in 10 years. No,
$100 a month.
No, there it was like I had to pay. Like they probably they're like, okay, what's your information? I had to pay there. Credit cards. I didn't have that money. I did not have it. I'm still paying it off on credit cards, luckily. But it caught me at a very bad time.
So is that?
It caught me at a very, very bad time.
Is that how it all works over there? Like everyone?
No, it's not. But you'll have to. Well, I mean, okay, I don't want to say no, but in England, I had special insurance, but most of the time they wouldn't take it.
Yeah, no,
they like won't take it because it's such an issue for them to use global insurance.
Yeah,
that they're like, for me, like when I did my pinky, I mean, they just did it. Like I never got a bill.
Even the Spaniards in Spain, the arm pump surgery is paid for. They can't. They don't. It's not through insurance. They have to pay for it.
But your other stuff, if you like, fell and broke your arm, you had insurance to cover that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It was just this specific surgery.
And then those doctors are not gonna take the national insurance probably because they're a specialized doctor.
Yeah. Correct.
Dr. Mir or whatever.
So like the forward thing came about. Did they take care of you for riding the bike? Like was that you just
showed up? That's all I had to do. Literally nothing. I didn't pay a dime.
Did you really enjoy riding for that team as far as the camaraderie?
I really did. Yeah, that's what's funny is like, I went and I did the result I did, right? And like people were surprised because, no one had done any result with that bike. And that was my first point of my whole season, right? So it's like, how can you do that result with that bike and not with the Calyx, right? People were asking me. And like, I don't know, right? I think that track went well. India just went well for me. And you know how it is. Weekends just kind of add up sometimes. But I also tell people, like, truthfully, I just felt really good in that atmosphere. I felt great. Like, I felt comfortable. People were super, super nice. And sometimes that goes a long way,
How much of it also was, like, feeling like you were actually wanted to be there, too, probably for the first time in a little while?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with that, I say everything.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. I mean, there's nothing worse than, especially when you're doing something like riding a motorcycle where it's like you're putting on everything on the line, but then the people that are, surrounding you don't even want you to be there. Like, there's nothing worse
Yeah.
Or
No.
better when people do want you to be there. Like that,
Exactly.
you know.
No, it makes such a big difference. But that's why I was like, with that even more, it like opened my eyes. I'm like, you know what, this was meant to be. You know, this is how it had to happen. It sucks, but it is what it is. Everything happens for a reason. So
You sound like a really positive person. Did you ever like kind of get depression over there, or like the clouds roll over? Like,
oh, dude, it sucked for a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, dude, I cried a couple times, like just out of straight like frustration and just like confusion, right? Because I'm like, why? Just like that question mark, you know. And it's like, yeah, you know, I try to be super positive, and I'm always working to try to be like, you know, you want to be that strong guy, you know, like the right mentality. You need to have that mentality, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you know, we're still human, and the situation sucked last year, and I went through like a couple times. I went through like a few weeks that just sucked, and even like, you know, I carried on that I had like ups and downs, because then, you know, I had all that, and then I went, and India was amazing. But then, you know, fast forward 2 weeks later, I was without a bike again. I was back at home. I was watching, you know, I was sitting on the couch watching GP, watching Moto2 on the TV, and I'm like, damn, you know, like. But that's life, you know, ups and downs all the time.
Yeah.
So
then obviously that led into, you know, I'm sure you shopped around. You were trying to stay in Moto2 again for this year, right? Or did
Yeah.
you kind of know immediately then? You're like, I need to go home?
No. I tried here. I tried for like 3 months.
And
hard.
were you calling team owners?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no manager this
I
time,
was my
just
own
you.
manager, yeah. Luckily, you know, I had a handful of people that were giving me a hand, like just people that know people, and even other managers that are just of other people. They were also like, hey, like I'll make a couple phone calls for you. I'll try. So that was cool. You know, that was cool having those people that were genuinely trying to give a hand. But I tried for a few months, and it just nothing lined up over there, man. Nothing lined up. I had one Moto2 World Championship possibility, and then that came late, and then I had a couple of Moto2 European Championship possibilities, but I still had to find money.
Yeah.
And then I had coming back here. And then when the whole thing with Top Pro with my team of now came up, and they put everything on the table, I'm like, okay, yeah, you know, it was still like I waited as long as I could to have everything in line, because I didn't want to just jump to it, because I wanted to say like, I'm done with Europe. No, like I wasn't. Like I was like, no, I still got stuff to figure out. But it didn't line up. It did not line up over there. Like pretty much the best option I had over there was a completely free ride. And that still sounds kind of good for how the industry is, right? But how was I going to survive? I wasn't. Like straight up, I was not going to. I don't want to be in the position where I'm you know, worried about what I'm going to eat end of the week, because I got to that point last year. Last year, at end of the year, I was like, dude, I don't know, gotta have to budget like what I'm going to eat, you know? So racing motorcycles is our dream. World Championship is a dream. GP is a dream. But should I really risk my entire life and well-being just because of the title Moto2? That's what went through my head, you know? And it just didn't line up. I had this opportunity over here, and this did line up, you know? So I'm glad I did it, because I think I'm in a much better place now.
Yeah. Now you see Joe obviously having some success. Whether you can attribute that to his team change, which you know kind of where he was and where he went to, so maybe you have different feelings on that. But how much of that do you think is the tire thing? And do you wish that you had the opportunity to have that switch to the tires?
Yeah, I think a lot of people.
Because you tested the tires.
I tested the Pirelli. Hard to give any big feedback on the tires, just because it was my first ever ride on the forward bike, so the chassis was so different. But the Pirellis are nice. They're different, but I haven't talked to Joe, right? Maybe you guys have after the tire change, so maybe he's talking a lot about the tires. I don't know, but I wouldn't even give that a huge pinpoint. I just think that he's just finally clicked a bunch of stuff. You know, like again, it's been years. He's been in this class for years, right? And so I think it's just he's finally been able to add up. Like he's done podiums and won some races already in the last 2-3 years, but he was never at this level that he is at right now. What he's showing, right?
You can see it.
Yeah.
Like when he rides around the track, he's
completely
one of the guys.
Yep, completely different. But again, years and years and years of coming, right? Of just being there and building. He wasn't there the first 2 years, 3 years. He wasn't there either. So I really do think that, again, I can't answer this question for him, but from how I feel, having been in the championship, having been in that atmosphere, I just think that it's something that, how I told you earlier, it's all the factors that finally added up for him, and a lot of it's mental too, of course, right? I think he's at a point now where he won't get flustered if he's P20 in a practice, because that's Moto2. You could be P20 in practice 2, and then you could qualify front row. That's how the class is, right?
I mean, he spoke highly of just having Hopper in his corner again and being able to working with him mentally was the biggest change, and how. So that's interesting that you say that, and how much, like, just hearing you guys both talk about the Moto2 bike, understanding that the bike is, like, it's so equal right across the board essentially, and that the mental side, the confidence that grows around it. So
it's huge. Yeah.
Him bringing up Hopper, how, and you don't have to answer it, but him being a rider, obviously he's been in a similar position at some point in his career as what you went through.
Yeah.
Did he kind of stay out of it as, like kind of management, or?
No, actually, I actually really good relationship with Hopper, and I think a great addition to the team. Yeah. Like, I think he's a great pillar in the team.
I guess what I mean, did he like sympathize at all with what was going on with you last year?
Yeah, he did, but he just really couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Straight up.
Yeah.
So
it's hard.
Yeah. So, and it, not to bring up like more crazy stuff, but like situation with Rory, like I don't.
Yeah, you guys both went through it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I think he was supposed to ride again for the team this year, and he obviously isn't there. I think he had a contract. He's not there anymore, right? Mm-hmm. So, and that sucked because Hopper is his like main guy, like main guy. So, almost the same that the way that people would kind of point fingers at Hopper for the situation with Rory also happened with me, and like that, that's a bit bumming just because of the fact that he really just didn't have anything to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's good to clear the air, obviously, on that.
Yeah.
But, now coming back to the U.S. on a BMW Superbike, which is probably nice coming from a Moto2 bike. At least you're not going back to a full production bike. You're going to something that's pretty legit. The bike you're riding right now is essentially the same thing that like Cameron's riding, right?
Yeah, same thing. I wouldn't be able to tell you details of what the BMW this year is because I think they're running last year's spec with maybe some new parts. I technically have the 24. I don't know if they're the same thing or not. I haven't asked questions. I don't really care. I know I got a machine under me, and clearly like all the BMW alpha builds, they're clearly doing the right things because you see what Cameron did last year, what he's doing now, like what I was able to do my first weekend, and man, that thing is so much fun. Like it's wild. It's so different to anything I've ridden. I'm still trying to wrap my head up of like all the new information coming in, but the overall is I'm just having a lot of fun on this thing.
And so with that, what's your short long-term goal, I guess? Obviously you want to be competitive this year, but like, are you looking at this like you're trying to build into, continually being a top Superbike guy, or like this is kind of like a filling the void to try to get back to Europe?
Funny, I had this conversation. Also, I have a lot of conversations, I guess. Said that a bunch of times.
Well, you said you talk a lot.
I talk a lot. There you go. Yeah, I'm not lying.
3 hours later.
252.
No shit.
Yeah.
252. That's wow. That's brutal. We'll do the record. We're trying to do the record of longest podcast. If anyone's stuck around this long, like send me a DM
Steve, the
or
guy
something.
editing this, is gonna kill us.
Oh,
That's what's gonna happen.
He's gonna fucking lose it.
So, oh wow, I've completely blanked out.
Going.
Oh, my goal.
Yeah.
So I came in this year, and I feel like I needed so much to go day by day that I'm not even thinking that far ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'm just thinking about where I'm at now and just trying to win races.
Do you think of yourself as SDK MotoAmerica Superbike racer, or are you still in your mind SDK Moto2?
Oh no, I'm Superbike racer now.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I'm Superbike racer. You know, and then if I,
You know what I mean by that, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're a Moto2 racer, but you're just here,
yeah,
racing a Superbike
no,
for the time being.
I know what you mean, but I have no idea if I'm ever going to be back in the Moto2 paddock.
Yeah.
That's the reality.
And you
Like-
hear you kind of say that. Are you already your expectations of winning races?
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I want to win races. I know it's going to be super tough, but I think we can fight for it. So I'll fight for it.
Do you think the first weekend out obviously helps you in that expectation? But coming into this year, did you have that expectation of I want to win Superbike races first year?
I came in zero expectation,
Okay.
like absolutely zero. You know, I came in with the back of my head of this is going to be gnarly because there's a big group. There's a big grid.
Yeah.
In almost every class. And a lot of guys with experience, and I don't have any Superbike experience. But man, I came in just so, like, just bland. You know, like, yep, I put in good tests. I feel great with the bike. I'm just gonna go and do my job. And when I qualified second in Atlanta, I surprised myself completely. I wasn't, even though I came with no expectation, I didn't expect to be, almost on pole right away. You know, for sure the races are a different story. You know, but I feel like I'm in a spot where I can at least be in that front group, seeing those front guys, where that's where I'm going to learn the most, you know, because there's so like after race one and at Road Atlanta, I was like, dude, I just learned so much being behind these guys 20 laps, you know, because it's so different. There's so much, the electronics changes everything. The way you ride that thing is it's just everything is so different. But after the weekend, you know, I feel confident enough to be, you know, I know the package, and I know the package has potential. I don't know the package yet because I'm still learning, but I know the package has potential. So I don't see any excuse to not be able to fight proper.
Left field question: because Cameron has that package and has done it, does the Alpha Boys share information? Did you get or even the Superbike guys last year? Are you getting their information to start somewhere?
So,
or is it lock and
Yeah.
key per team?
So because it's BMW and because the bike's an Alpha build, we have BMW engineers, right? So my data engineer is from BMW, from Alpha. So same
Whatever
as
they get,
same as them, right? So we have data engineers that all are under the same umbrella, which means that they have some information they can share, but that doesn't mean that we have all the information.
So
right?
you can't see Cameron's data, but
No.
they can.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Hey, you should start here, and hey, we should.
But
be
even that, like my data guy, I don't think he's allowed to, like, even look at certain data. I think he told me he's only able to look at certain numbers, like maybe parameters,
maybe trends.
You know? Yeah, keep it within certain things. So that's interesting. I mean, it's better than nothing, but it's still really
Well, it's
difficult.
just interesting to see like a full Superbike. Like normally you start a full Superbike team and you've got troubleshooting issues. Obviously you got a BMW data guy, Alpha, but we've always seen, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like if you got to start from ground zero, I'm sure
Yeah.
they've had to take some sort of package from what you guys have.
Yeah, I mean
When I
that.
say you guys, Tyler's.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest though, that's kind of, I would say that. Again, what ifs, right? We always have what ifs, but I think that race 1 and race 2, if we would have had a bit more information, I would have been a little bit more upfront. I'm not telling you what a podium or one races, but I would have been a little bit more upfront because the main thing was we just had so much question mark.
Yeah.
Like when I finished the race, I'm like, oh wow, like I have a lot more data now than what I've gotten at all up to now, and that's because we have a lack of data, right? We've not done this. This is a team's real first weekend last time. That was my first real weekend with a Superbike. Crew chief, you know, Jeremy Toy, I raced with. He was my crew chief in with Suzuki for the 3 years. It's his first real-time crew chiefing with a Superbike. There's a lot of firsts,
Yeah.
right? So we need a lot of info.
All right. So you're saying Jeremy Toy.
Yeah, Jeremy. Well, just that it's Jeremy Toy. First time also working on a
Superbike.
on a Superbike as a crew chief. So just a lot of firsts, a lot of new information. But I think with all that being said, the first weekend was pretty damn successful.
Yeah. No, it looked like it. It looked like it. I mean, I think everyone, once you race in the World Championship, people kind of expect, a certain level out of you. Obviously, you won a championship here before that. So, yeah, no, I think we're all stoked to have you.
He just told me we totally expected that. That's what you just said.
Well, I think
right?
as fans, you kind of expect a guy to come back from the World Championship to be like, okay,
And fight for something.
You're racing against the top 20 guys in the
Yeah,
world.
we want to be
if
there.
you can be a top 20 guy, you should be a top 5 guy in the U.S.
Yeah.
Did you think honestly that package was going to be that good? Like, I mean, a new team, like a BMW is not the easiest thing. Just because you can buy an alpha bike
Right.
doesn't mean like things work.
Totally no. That's a fucking great question. It was a big question mark in my head, and that's a big reason why I came in with zero expectation. Because I'm like, man, I don't know, right? New team, new people, new crew, new bike. There's a lot. You can't come in expecting to be at the top right away. That would be dumb, right? That's how you burn yourself out
For sure.
So that's why I'm happy after the first weekend, considering all things considered. No, I think we're in a good spot.
Well, sick. This is our longest
This is
podcast.
it.
We'll stop it at 3 on the dot, I think.
Yeah, we got it. We could keep going, but we got to wrap this bad boy
We
up.
actually got to go race.
We got work to do.
Yeah.
Right?
actually work now.
SDK's a dog.
No, but it was sick. There was a lot to unpack, and I always tell people like the younger guys are a bit tougher because they just don't have a long enough of a career to really sit here and talk with us in depth for a while. But you've been through a lot. You've done a lot.
We did the record. We did some record. I had to do some record this weekend.
But yeah, you're only 22 tomorrow, and I'm sure you got a lot more left on the table to come back and fill us in with another 3 hours at some point in the future.
I hope so, man. Yeah, thank you.
We really appreciate you coming on, and yeah, hopefully we'll do it again soon.
What do you mean, dude? Hit him with the question.
Oh fuck,
Dude,
that's your
you
job,
can't
Jimmy.
do that. All right,
Oh,
sorry.
no.
Hey,
Oh,
pause.
no,
We're not done here.
Oh no.
All right, so you've never listened to an end of our podcast?
No,
then?
so
Yeah,
this is
we
a
know if
surprise.
people have actually listened all the way through.
This is a surprise.
Yeah, we know you haven't. So, so you're on death row for. Why is he on death
Throwing a
row?
water bottle at someone.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah. All right,
that's
you're,
so brutal.
so you're on death row for throwing a water bottle at
Kill
somebody's
somebody
head.
with a water bottle.
And we call it your death row meal. So, what's your last meal? And drink, food, whatever. Your last meal before you die.
Dude, I just got so many good plates.
Just give it to us. Top one.
A fat, juicy burger.
From where?
Tipsy Boar. It's a place right by my house. Hollywood, like homemade style. Yeah, it's the best.
All right.
Is there
Not-
anything on it?
Bacon, double patty, huge. Lettuce, tomato, the typical. And then they put their own sauce. And then it's just fucking amazing.
Fries?
Fries. Yeah. Sweet potato fries.
Yeah.
Yeah. You like that too. You got happy when you saw sweet potato. Yeah, for sure. Just big old.
Drink. I feel like you're a Mai Tai kind of guy, maybe.
Dude, no, I was gonna say I would say iced tea half sweet, half unsweet.
A little Arnie Palmy.
No,
Oh,
it's
no,
a
that's a
lemonade.
half. Yeah.
Wow, that's weird.
I don't
No alcohol?
No, I don't drink alcohol.
Wow.
Well,
Dude, come on, it's a podcast, bro. Come
yeah.
on.
Yeah, I don't drink until I got something to celebrate.
Yeah, I hear you.
What are you drinking? Tequila?
No, I hate tequila.
Okay.
Dude, Jeremy Toy got me into rum and coke, and
Now that's you.
yeah,
Yeah, you-
unfortunately,
Rum and Coke.
but very once in a while. It doesn't sit well. The last time,
After a 10K run.
dude, no, dude. The last
Free
time,
practice on Friday.
really quick though. Really quick. The last time was I went to Germany when I visited the BMW guys in.
Oktoberfest.
No, it was like close to. It was end of November or December. I went and dude, I got so screwed up off of beer because it was so good.
Oh,
and I'm not a
yeah.
beer guy. Like, I never drink beer like that.
Das Boot.
I tried it over there. I'm like, dude, this is great.
Pint
Oh,
later.
man, I don't-
Pint later.
Oh
And they're probably like,
God.
yeah.
Anyways, we'll finish it there.
All right.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks again.
Thanks,
dude.
having
Thank
us.
you so much, man. We appreciate it. Good luck.
Thanks.